What up, y'all? Thank y'all for tuning in to Just F and Go podcast with myself, Samuel Jimenez, and my co-host, Charlie Herrera Villar. Please like, subscribe, follow on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher. We got a good one for y'all coming up because we are blessed with a special guest, my man from the Shy. We have a special guest, the a father, bar manager, and hired muscle out of Chicago, Illinois. He is a bar manager and beverage director of 16th Street Bar in South Loop, Chicago. Also works with Lush Life Productions and is a founder of Brown and Balance, an organization that highlights black and brown bartenders. Also, the young OG of OGs in the beverage world, a big brother to many, a mentor to myself in this game that has opened a lot of doors. My big brother Josh Davis out of Chicago. How you feeling, brother?
What's up, dog? Thank you. Hey, that was a dope ass intro, man. I appreciate. Wait, I can curse, right?
Yeah, you curse all you want.
Oh, okay, cool. That was a dope ass intro, man. I appreciate that, bro. I need you to take that and send that to me so when I come out of shit, I can have that playing, like a WWE guy, and I can have that playing when I'm walking in the spot. You know what I'm saying?
We're definitely gonna chop that up on Instagram. Make sure you got it and you have the audio files and you use it whenever you want, man. I'm here for it, dog. Whenever you want to slide me like 50 cents, you know what I'm saying, $1 every time you got an intro for you, every time you got to use a bio. You know what I'm saying? That's passive income for me, you know? I'm with it.
We'll get them splits right. I got you. Don't even worry about it.
100%. Well, y'all are tuning in for episode 10. It's a special episode. You know, we started this during Shelter in Place with Charlie and I. So to get to episode 10, I think is a dope space for us. Now we're at the double digits. Charlie, how you feeling about it?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm actually feeling good. I'm excited that we got to this point, right? Because, I didn't know how I was expecting that this thing would go far, but like to get to episode 10 and to feel even better every day is like, all right, cool. We're on to something. And Josh, I want to thank you as well, because even though we just started this whole segment with taking a shot, I remember, Sam, you had mentioned Brown and Balance to me before, and I followed you while you were, I think it was like during the start of the pandemic, and you brought out, it's like everybody get your drinks out real quick while you were doing some lives, and I was like, oh, of course we could drink right now. Like, this is what we drink. So, yeah, it's cool to actually take a drink with you, man, because I do remember during those early moments, it was things like what you were doing that was kind of keeping me sane during some crazy times.
I appreciate that, dog. It was like off the cuff. I was like, let me do something, right? Like, in our industry, unfortunately, man, everything is kind of whitewashed. So when everything shut down, I started seeing all the major outlets, Tales of Cocktail and all these other Thirsty and Liquor.com. They all use the same people for everything, right? And I was like, all right, this is cool, but there's a lot of other stories, a lot of other people we need to hear from as well. So let me just take whatever platform I got and let me just throw something out there and just see what happens. And boom, it blew up. Everybody liked it. It's coming back soon. We took a little break with everything that's going on in the world. Like, I just wasn't in a good mood to be out there, be happy online. I'm not, because I'm not in real life. So I didn't want to fake it, you know what I'm saying? So we're coming back soon, with the happy hours. They'll be back maybe about a week or so. I'm working on the guest list now. So we'll get you back in and drinking at 5 p.m. every day.
Right on, brother. Thank you.
The good thing, though, is like, a big part of this podcast has been so much of just like, obviously in our industry, Josh, with everything being shut down on the beverage side, but also Charlie's a barber, so he's experiencing it also from another standpoint. Like the same kind of experience, of like trying to figure out like, fuck, what's kind of the next move? When are we getting back to it? But also, how can we rethink about shaping our industries during this time? So it's been dope to work on this project. But I got a little change of intro segments for today. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little fantasy draft style. It's gonna be a top three. We're gonna all have 3 picks, and at the end of these 3 picks, Mikey's gonna choose the best 3 picks. Who has the best 3 picks? All right. And the way this fantasy draft is gonna work is gonna go in snake order. So, with Josh being the guest, Josh, you can start. You will have the top pick in this little fantasy draft. And then you choose who goes next, and then we'll run it back for 3 rounds. 3 rounds on one question. Top 3, and you can't choose the same thing as another person or one of the other people. Top three baby making songs of all time.
Ah,
Your top three baby making songs.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna give you a
Baby.
second to think about it. Top three baby making songs. There's a lot of artists out there. You
Let
got
me go to my baby making play real quick. Hold on.
you could go you could go OG, you could OG, go Marvin Gaye, some Isley Brothers, some Teddy Pendergrass. You go new
That's
school.
that's a
You go
good
new
one.
school. Even though Tory Lanez is shooting Meg the Stallion in the foot, you
Right,
maybe you want to put Tory.
Cause you know I'm from Chicago, so I'm like, we don't really fuck with Kels, but is R. Kelly available for this?
Look, man, I'm gonna let you do what you want to do. I'm gonna let you do what you want to do. I ain't judging nobody. I'm gonna let you do what you want to do.
You know what? I'm gonna leave Kels exempt because Kels is bugging. All right, I'm gonna go the first one. I got it. Between the Sheets, Isley Brothers.
Oh my God, bro, that's my top pick. You just literally, that's my number one. That's my number one. You're gonna steal my top pick. All right, Josh, who you passing it? Who you passing it to next for the second pick?
I'm gonna throw it to Charlie, man. Let's see what he got, man.
I'm gonna go with Pretty Ricky. Let me lick you up and down. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Damn, man, that Between the Sheets was gonna be my top pick. That's like my top pick for everything on these. All right. I'm gonna have to rethink this for a second. If there's anybody that there's a lot of people that got a lot of those hits, right? But
Yeah.
there's a certain someone who has at least like 5 in the top 25 for me. Maybe like 4. And that's Genuine. So I'm gonna show some love. Genuine, In Those Jeans. That's gonna be my number one pick. In Those Jeans. And now since this is snake order, it's gonna be back on me again for the number 4 pick.
Okay.
Man, that's a tough one. And I'm gonna go. Nah, you know what? I was gonna go a little bit more old school, but I'm gonna save that because I think I could get it in the third round. And I'm gonna do Untitled by D'Angelo.
Good job.
So
That's on mine.
my top two picks so far: In Those Jeans by Genuine and Untitled by D'Angelo. And that's back to Charlie.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and switch this whole thing up. I'm gonna go with Kelly Rowland, Motivation. You know?
That's
okay. I see.
Switch it up a little bit. Sometimes
yeah,
you gotta.
I get it. That's
thank
it
you.
works. It works. See, I'm a little older than y'all, man. So I'm gonna stay in the '90s because that's the best generation of R&B music anyway. But we can talk about that later. I'm gonna go Meeting in My Bedroom by Silk.
Okay.
And that's Snake. So you got your last pick right now too.
Last pick. I gotta come with a banger for this last one, man. You got me deep in my playlist, bro. Oh man. And for the last pick, man, I'm gonna go to my second greatest group of all time, man. I'm gonna go with man, this is tough, dog. I'm gonna go with Feeling by Jodeci.
I can see you. Okay. I feel like I got one right now. I feel like I got one that's gonna put my list over the top. Mikey, you better have the right answer to this.
You know what?
What's your number 3, Charlie?
I'm gonna have to whatever. I'm gonna ride with the new school right now because I gotta try it out. So I can't say it's on. It's gonna be my new one. It's gonna be WAP. It's gonna be the new one for me. Right. I'm gonna have to try that out.
Charlie, gangster. I see how Charlie likes to get out.
All right. You know what? And I gotta show the ladies a little love too, because whenever this song comes on, it's a different mood. We got the little LED lights in the room. You can turn the whole room red. So I'm gonna show some love. TLC Red Light Special is my number 3 pick. So the 3 picks I had are In Those Jeans by Genuine, Untitled by D'Angelo, and I think all of those were 90s. See, Josh, all of those are 90s songs.
Yeah.
Was In Those Jeans in the 90s or the 2000s?
That's gotta be late 90s.
Yeah, that's in between right there. That's like somewhere close to the 2000s, either after or.
But Genuine You're a '90s dude to me, so you good.
But Untitled was definitely in the '90s, and then Red Light
Yeah.
Special was early '90s.
Yep.
And then Josh, your 3 picks were what?
Twin Sheets, Meeting in My Bedroom, and Phoenix. That's a
And
hard trio,
Charlie's.
dog.
That was pretty Ricky. And then it was Motivation by Kelly Rowland. And then, of course, WAP.
All right, Mikey, you got it. Who's got the top 3?
All right. So I like what Charlie
I
did.
feel like I feel like Mikey's gonna be biased on this one because I'll tell you a little story about Mikey. We were at a party one time. Back when Mikey was DJing a lot, man, and Mikey, obviously that Between the Sheets sample is on Notorious sample that, right? And Mikey had the room grooving one time with that Between the Sheets to Biggie mix,
Oh, shit.
and it was moving. So like every time, like damn near every time I hear Between the Sheets, I always think back to that moment because that was a good ass moment in my life. So Mikey, don't be biased on this one. I know how much you love Between the Sheets too.
No bias here. I will say, I mean, that would be a good reason to pick that, but let me just start off by saying, I mean, I like what Charlie did. He had some late and early 2000 joints. Got the ladies with the WAP joint. I see that's some like real rough shit, bedroom shit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I like what Charlie did there. Sammy, Josh got the seal from you on Between the Sheets. But I think those other two were dope. Red Light Special and Entitled by D'Angelo. I mean, I'm a huge D'Angelo fan, so that's cool. Isley Brothers, Josh, that's always a classic. That should definitely be a number 1 on anyone's for sure. And then Silk, I've never been too big on, but Jodeci for sure. That's definitely another 90s classic. So I think for this one, I'm gonna have to go with Josh's pick
Oh,
because of Between the Sheets and Jodeci.
yeah. Look, that's Jodeci. The thing is, Isley Brothers, man, like the Isley Brothers got too many hits to. Between the Sheets, I think Between the Sheets should be the number 1 pick on every like baby making songs draft ever. Like if that's not like at least in the first round, people fucking up.
Yeah.
Like that's too classic. And then Jodeci, obviously, I mean, Jodeci's just that's all they did.
Mm-hmm.
All they did was make baby making songs.
Right.
I will say that when Sammy was saying that he was going to do this draft style, I thought y'all were going to be picking basketball teams, and I was like, damn, I'm the most basketball illiterate person to be choosing anything. People are going to clown me for my pick.
I thought that's what was going on. I was like, well, you know my number 1 pick, so
Nah.
And Mikey, make sure you print out that list for me if you don't mind, or just send it over. The list of everybody all together.
I will. I wrote it down right here. I got you.
Hey, Charlie got basically a newborn at home. You gotta relax, Charlie. You can't. You gotta.
What is the quarantine?
One.
Yeah, I know.
Charlie got a newborn at the house. You don't need to be playing that music right now, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
There's a grace period before you.
You're gonna have, what do they call it? I don't know if it's like it's like Irish twins or something like that.
Irish twins, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Before the whole year is done.
Yeah, when you have like 2 babies within like a year of each other or whatever, I think it is. I don't know.
I know a couple of Mexican twins that have some of the same thing going on.
Oh, for sure, the Mexicans
like 9
be popping
months
them out.
apart. I'm like, how did that happen? It was like, now we back at it.
Anyways, man, I think it's a good like opportunity. Obviously, we got Josh in the house. Very much like a big brother to me in this industry. We don't go back long, but all the memories that we do have are positive ones. And like my man's done dropped a lot of game on me, not just about the beverage world, but also just about life. So as we go into this next little segment here, one of the main things we talk about on this podcast is just about like parenthood, about navigating life as a father. Charlie had his first child young. What, 17, Charlie?
Yeah.
So Charlie had his first child at 17. I had mine at 22. I know you were fairly young too, right, Josh?
Yeah, 23. Yep.
Yep. So, that's something we all kind of share in common in terms of just when you look back at it, I know for Charlie especially, you probably look back at it like you were young, you were a baby, man. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that way myself. Like when I look back, like, damn, I was 22 when I had my first kid. Like when I look at 22-year-olds now, I'm like, bruh. I was so young. I was so young and thought I don't know how you guys felt about it at that time, but I was so young, but just thought I was a dude. I thought I was that dude. I thought I was a man, you know what I'm saying, grown into everything that I was supposed to be. Josh, can you talk a little bit about your, you know, journey or experience becoming a father at 23?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were ready? Do you feel like it was like something that was it expected for you? Was it a planned thing? Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
But what's funny is like I didn't even want kids, right? Like that's the crazy part about my life, right? I didn't want kids. So backstory on me, I was adopted. You know what I mean? So I just found my biological family 8 years ago when I was 33. So that kind of put a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth about having kids, right? Because I was like, well, the whole my moms and pops didn't want me. I don't want to bring no kids in the world if I can't take care of them. Yada yada yada. I went through all of that. So when she got pregnant with JoJo, I was like, oh man, I ain't even want no kids. But something clicked in my head was like, all right, well, he coming, so I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta take care of him. And 23-year-old Josh was in the streets doing all type of crazy stuff, man, just living and not really caring about, the next day, just thinking about that day, to get this money, and let's keep it moving. And so he kind of slowed me down a little bit. You know what I mean? I wasn't as reckless, but all I did was work and get money and hustle and do what I gotta do. So, like I told him last weekend, I was like, yo, I wasn't the best father to you when I had like your first 2-3 years of life. Like I wasn't a good dad because what a good dad to me is experiences, time, sharing, things, within each other. But the first few years of his life, man, I wasn't around. I was working because I thought money is gonna take care of him. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta feed him, I gotta clothe him, I gotta make sure he has everything he wants, everything he needs. And I didn't do a good job of balancing that with, spending time with him and hanging out with him and really just having that bond, which is crazy to me how we're so close now, right? So fast forward to he's about 4 or 5 years old. Um, I moved closer to him and his mom. I literally was living like the next block over from him and his mom. So that way I walked him to school, um, walk him home from school, come over to my house and hang out for a few hours. So we started seeing each other every day, all the time. I had him with me on some runs I probably shouldn't have him with me on back then. But it was like, yo, that's my dog. He with me, man. So it is what it is. And looking back at it, I'm glad things played out for me the way they did. I would tell a young father now, just get that time in with a man. Like that's something that money can't buy. That's something that no matter how much money you make, you can never replace the experiences you have with your children. You know what I mean? My kids, all three of them, they remember stuff we did when they were 2, 3, 4, and 5 years old. And at the end of the day, I appreciate that as a father more than all the Jordans and all the clothes and all that other stuff that they've been able to have.
Dope, brother. You know, you said something that I think we have talked about it a little bit on the last episode, and I don't know if Charlie. I'm sure Charlie like it resonated with Charlie a little bit because we talked about like being younger and seeing like money is love, right? You spend money on people, and that's like an expression of love because like in a lot of situations, and I think it's something that maybe we all share, all three of us here is like when I was a kid, my pops is just a hard worker, man. My pops is just a grinder. He's gonna get out there and grind. So I didn't necessarily experience as much love from my family as much as like they were just always like whatever we got to do to put food on the table. But like for a lot of it, my brother and I kind of raised ourselves in a lot of ways, just home alone from a very young age, trying to figure it out. While both of my parents were, at the grind, both immigrants. So I know Charlie has a similar experience in terms of like, I don't know, Charlie, can you speak about that as a father for yourself, being a young father and getting out of the situation of like seeing money as love? Because you talked about that on the last episode too.
Yeah, man. I think, and it's funny because it comes in different waves. And I was just thinking, I was actually just talking about it this morning to my daughter Athena, where when I was having her, I was 17, so I needed to make money because after well, one, I was fucking up obviously, and it wasn't like I was fucking up because it's not like I was going out trying to do these things. I actually worked for a health fair that promoted safe sex, and in the situation with my daughter being born, we used all the protection possible. Shit still happened, and I started feeling the guilt of looking like a stereotype. Oh, here is an immigrant Mexican who is now a teenage father, and that started playing on me. That did a lot psychologically for me, having to code switch everything else just to try to go against that stereotype that I feel like I just put myself in. Um, but with that also came like, well, now you got to grind, you got to hustle hella hard and make sure you provide. And for a while, I couldn't see my daughter. If you don't have enough money, man, the court is not going to be on your side. You know what I mean? Nothing like that's going to work out. So it requires you to get paid to see your kids. And so for a long time, my mentality was just grind, hustle, stack, and try to get everything so that you can maintain that relationship. But so much so that you stop having, even though I was very intentional with how I was raising my daughter, especially throughout her from like 7 years old to 15, how old she is now. Um, but I was getting consumed by working. I also like to work. I love what I do, so I enjoy that. But now, because of the quarantine, I'm very and the pandemic, I'm very grateful because I had my newborn right at the beginning of the lockdown, literally a month before, and I was freaking out because I was like, I'm about to lose everything I worked for. Does that mean that this daughter that I have now is going to be gone too? Because now, as a barber, I can't work. Um, Everything was just in jeopardy now because I don't have any source of income and I can't hustle or grind the way that I used to. And but what it taught me, similar to what you were saying, Josh, is that yo, what matters is the time that you're going. The money, we show it as a sign of love because that's where we spent our time, was making money. We spent our time making money. So you pay it forward with cash or with money for them because that's the translation. That is like, I've traded my time for this, so I'm giving it to you now. I'm giving you what I received. And as they're talking about right now, they're kind of having mixed signals whether we go back to barbering indoors or whatever. I'm taking this time of during a little bit left of this quarantine that we have to recognize the value of what I've gained with the time that I've gained with my family and how the happiness that's brought. And I'm like, when I go back to work, I want to have like a pie chart of saying I want this much happiness in my life, and I want to work this much and live within my means this much so that I can work, provide to maintain this level of happiness that I've acquired from spending time with my family. That's where I'm
Yeah.
at now.
And the crazy part is like we do all this working and all this. Like kids don't care about none of that shit, dog. Like it's funny. Like Sam knows me. Like I'm a sneakerhead. Like I pull in the city. I'm like, yo, where's the sneaker spot at? I need to go grab some kicks. I need to do all that. My kids ain't into none of that. Like all they care about is just hanging out with dad, riding bikes, walking the neighborhood, going to the park. All that stuff that I was doing, it was actually counterproductive to my relationship with them as a father, right? You know what I mean? It's like my kids want to hang. My daughter's standing literally right here.
Yeah.
Like she's literally, the camera's here. She's right here because
Yeah.
all they want to do is just hang out with me. And I was like, it took a long time for me to say, all right, well, I don't really, like, I wanted my pops when we were younger to just be there for when I was playing a game. He worked. He had to take care of us. So, he missed all the basketball games. When I was in band, he missed all the band concerts. Like, I just want him there. And I think my kids just have that gene that I have. It's like, yo, we just want you here. We don't care what you do. Like, if you don't go to work, cool. Let's hang out, watch a movie. And it took me a long time to really understand, like, the foundation of our relationships, that money come and go. Like, I could fall off tomorrow. Like, that ain't nothing. I can lose. Like, the pandemic showed us that, right? Like, we can lose everything in a moment. But the relationships and that solid family structure ain't never going to go nowhere as long as you got that solidified, solid, and laid out like how you want it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like something my pops told me because I've been hard on my pops in the past. I've come to realize as I've grown into a father, everything that my dad was doing. But what my dad told me, he grew up poor in Mexico. He grew up poor in Mexico, and that's a whole different world of poor than it is like poor in the States. You know, so he always what he's told me as I've gotten older and become a father that he's like, you always want when you become a father, you want your kids to have the things that you didn't have. And for him, it was like I didn't have anything. I didn't have money. I didn't really have clothes. I didn't necessarily know where my food was going to come from. So the way he expressed his love was that I'm going to make sure my kids don't have to go through that as as children, you know what I'm saying? And even though my brother we didn't grow up in the best neighborhoods. We didn't necessarily always have like the nicest clothes, the best toys, whatever, but we never necessarily went without. You know what I'm saying? My pops always made sure that like there was always going to be food on the table. There was always going to be clothes on your back, and there was always going to be a roof over your head. And as long as I'm doing those things and I'm doing it right, you know. So I think I think especially as you grow, and I know Charlie's kind of talked about this, you start to view like your relationship with like those people in your life, your parent figures, as a little bit different. Like you can understand the choices they made. Because also my pops was a young dad too. You know, my pops was a young dad too. So I got to look at it as like, you know, he's making the decisions that he feels are right as a father. You know, because society the way it is doesn't always allow us to like exchange, you know, time for, you know, or like to have an equal balance of time and money. And it is what it is, but that's the way it goes, and it's on us to kind of figure it out in the society that we live in. Josh, one thing that I did want to ask, so you had a son first. Uh if and correct me if I'm wrong in the order that it goes in. It goes son, daughter, son, right? Quan is the
Yeah,
youngest.
yep, yeah, Quan's baby, yep.
So you had a son first, and then you had like a gap between having the second, which is your daughter. How
Yep.
long is that gap?
Six, what you were 11. So 6.5, 7 years.
All right. Can you talk a little bit about was it different having a daughter than it was having a son? Did it change the way? Because Charlie and I both have two daughters. So, you know, the experience is a little bit different. I don't have a son. Charlie doesn't have a son. To some degree, I look back on it as like, if I had a son, would I have changed as much? Would my world have changed as much, or would I just be treating him like the little homie? And like, that's my young homie. We're gonna do what we do. And when I had it, but
Yeah.
since I had daughters, my world changed. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like having a daughter, and then how your world changed
It,
after that?
like, for me, it softened me up a whole lot because I can't, like, with my son, I can, beat him up and throw him around, and I can't do that with a little girl. So now I got to switch my whole parenting style because all the things I could do with him, I can't do with her. She tough though. I give her that. She's a tough little girl, but I don't know. It was just different. Y'all got daughters. Like I found out the look the little girls give you when they want what they want, and something that like they have ingrained in them at birth. Like they don't realize they're doing it, but they do it. I found that out, and how you just be like, okay, you can get what you want. But with the boys, you're a little tough. Like with boy, I'm tough. Like they gotta really like earn everything with me. But I tend to give her a little bit more. But now, as she's getting older, I'm trying to learn how to balance that out a little bit better. Make her work for it. Make her understand the value of a dollar. You know what I mean? Understand the value of working for what you want, not just getting everything handed to you. Because I mean, just be honest. I don't want to be one of these girls that we've all seen in nightclubs that just show up, hang out with the promoter, get free everything. I don't want that for her, right? So I'm just trying to show her what a man's supposed to do and how a man's supposed to treat a woman. And being a single dad is different because I date, I have girls, but I don't really, I don't expose them to that. You know what I mean? So it helped me in my whole life. Like I treat women differently because that's somebody else's daughter. Because I know I'm gonna shoot a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just gonna be honest. Like yeah,
On that
my baby
time.
come home crying like you getting shot, fam. Like we're not even playing. So it adjusted just my whole mental capacity for women. It gave me new respect for women because she's getting older. There's things she comes to me now that I don't know how to answer that shit. You know what I mean? So I have women in my life, cousins and aunts and sisters that I can go to and get some advice to try to make things a little easier for her, so she don't get just tough dad that's gonna scare all the boys away, but also dad that can empathize and we can talk and we have open relationship and dialogue back and forth.
I tell you, one thing I used to joke around about with my wife is like when I when the girls are older and they're in like middle school, high school, I just want to be that. Like I want to, and it's part of the reason. Josh, you were there when I first started getting back into shape. You and Mister Oh, they're trying to feed me fucking shit food. I used to tell my wife, I was like, I just want to look like a scary ass Samoan dad. Like I just want to look like you pull up to a house, like I'm all
Yeah,
yoked up, and it's like you
yeah,
pull up, and it's like that scene in Bad Boys where you're just like, who are you? What's your name? You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I want whether whatever my daughters choose. You know what I'm saying? Bringing people home, it's like you pull up and like put the Glock on the table. You know what time it is, but at the same time, like I used to think that when I was younger, but at the same time now, as they've gotten older, it's like I'm just soft as shit to some degree with them. I'm soft as fuck. I look at myself, and I feel like my younger self would have been like, "You old soft ass, suck ass, like you a sucker. What are you doing?"
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's only with the girls, man. I don't know what it is, man. You just like, cause I said the same thing. Like, ain't no boys coming, ain't nobody coming over here talking about, hey, Mr. Davis, got Kamora. No, she's not home, nigga. What you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't talk to me, fam. Don't talk to her. You know what I mean? Like, she was riding bikes with some little boy. I'm looking for him still. Like,
Yeah.
what you know what I'm saying? Cause I just that ain't. I don't play like that, man. Cause that's my baby. But
Damn.
we can't. I'm learning though we can't do that because then that's when you get that rebellious streak. You know what I'm saying? You get that. Well, I'm gonna go do it just because my dad don't want. You know what I mean? Like it's with every kid, right? You only want to do it because your parents don't want you to do it. So I'm just trying to learn how to balance that out a lot better. You know what I mean? Now that she's getting older, like she'll be 12 next month. High school's around the corner. You know, I don't want some of them horror stories I've heard about high school years with little girls. You know what I mean? I don't want that. So I'm just trying to figure out how to best keep this situation under control before I end up in jail.
You gotta do parenting jujitsu. It's one of those
Right.
things where you still put them into submission, but you don't fight the blow. You kind of just like you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a couple stories on all those topics. I think so. My daughter's first. She's a sophomore in high school now. So last year was her first year in high school, and my wife happens to be a teacher at the high school that she goes to. So that's cool, right? You got a little eye on, you know. But we
Right.
went to a football game, and we go to Alameda. Alameda is this island right off of Oakland, and it's a nicer spot. It's a spot that growing up, I was like, one day I'll make it into that island and I'll be all right. So I'm here, and but Encinal, it's a nice area, and Encinal, it's I guess it could be considered the hood spot of the island, but it's like the suburbs to Hayward. You know what I mean?
Not a real hood.
Not at all, right? So I'm happy with it. They don't know that. They don't know that it's not a real hood, but sometimes they feel like, yeah, we're a real hood, right? So anyway, so we're at a football game, and it's the first football game of the year, and there's these kids behind me on the bleachers start getting into a fight. They start jumping this cat, and I was like, it was literally right behind me, and I've always been the type to jump in and try to break something up. But I realized at that moment, as I'm pulling this young cat off this dude that's getting, dumped on, the dude looks at me and I look like a young cat. And I had this stupid ass hat on. Thank God I had this stupid ass hat on because this kid was way bigger than I was. I'm 5'6", right? I'm not big. I'm skinny as hell. I'm pulling him off. And as I'm pulling him off, like, hey, bro, you got to be cool. You got to be cool. He's looking at me and he's like sizing up my age, right? And I think the hat kind of put me over the edge. Like, oh, this is an old short cat. Like, it's cool. But it was one of those moments where I was like, am I about to get knocked out by this kid right now? Or what's going to happen? So after that, I was like, I got to work out. I stopped. But, I realized, like, okay, that whole time of me saying I gotta be super yoked out for the time my daughter's in high school. And if anybody comes asking to go to the prom, the time is now. And it crept up out of nowhere for me. Sam, on something that you said about, like, when you're kind of hard on your pops and all that other stuff, I definitely agree with you on how we're critical. And now that my daughter is getting to the age where she's going to be critical of me later on as well, I realized something the other night. We were coming from my in-laws' house, and we only live like 2 blocks away from the in-laws, so we're super lucky on that. And we're slapping Nipsey on the way home. And she was like, there's a Navy base that overlooks San Francisco where we live. And she's like, man, just go to the Navy base, Dad. Like, let's just, because there was a fire, so the sun was super red, and it was a cool kind of sky view. And I was like, you right. Like, we ain't got nothing to do. Let's go to the Navy base. And as I made that turn, instead of going to our house, I'm realizing like I got kind of emotional because I'm slapping Nipsey with her and she's singing along to it. And, we're going to the Navy base because she said, "Hey, Dad, let's just go to the Navy base." And I got emotional because I'm like, I never had that. And not only did I not have a relationship like that with a dad that I could listen to the same music and just say, "Hey, let's just go here." And my dad would just be like, "All right, let's go." Like, I didn't have that. But I also recognize that there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that right now. And she understands that, but she won't know how that feels. Like, she recognizes that there's kids that don't have that, but she doesn't know how that feels. And it's kind of one of those things that you can't understand how grateful to be for what you have in life. At the same time, you recognize that you have something that nobody else has. And so I think we have the same thing for our parents, where it's like, yo, they did everything they could for us to never feel what they felt, even though they accomplished that. We always feel like, well, but that's not enough. There's more that you got to give, Pop. There's more that you got to do, and I love that, and I hate that, but I love that because I'm like, but you ain't never got to feel that. But just recognize that there is something else out there that you don't have. So that's
when she has a kid, she'll understand it then, right?
Yeah.
Like my son just turned 18, and like he kicked it. Like I showed Sam some of the videos from his birthday party. Like he had a grown man birthday party with his pops. So it was like, all right, you about to go away to school. Let me show you how we did that. Now you're old enough to learn who your dad. Like dad. So now you need to meet Josh, right?
Yeah.
So all your uncles, we gonna get together. We gonna put some money together. We gonna throw you the birthday bash of all birthday bashes, right?
Yeah.
Got a hell of a time. You know what I mean? But all his homies played on the basketball team when they was over here like, yo, your pops, man, he's super cool. Like we could never hang out with our dad like this. Like, or my moms or whoever, like they'll never let us, just he's like, Joe Pop's always, just kicking. I was like, he gets it, but he don't get it yet until he has a son and he's able to share some of those things with his kid. Then he's gonna be like, I get it now. Yeah. My dad wanted to make sure that, like, me and my pops didn't have no relationship like that. He worked, took care of him. He was dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't tell him none of the stuff I was really doing. Like, we didn't talk about that. It was like, me and my pops didn't even talk about sex till I was 17, 18 years old. I'm like, I've been got it popping. Like,
bro,
you
me
late,
and my
bro.
dad
Like,
me and my pops ain't never talked about sex till today.
My mom thinks I'm a virgin.
But I feel
it. But I was like, for my kids, I always wanted to make sure, like, you ain't got to sneak. You don't got to do stuff. Like, you can come talk to me. Like, I mean, don't get it wrong. Do something stupid, you'll get in trouble. Sure. But I'm also explaining to you why you're in trouble, and I'm going to show you why you went wrong. You know what I mean? Like, when we was growing up, it was just, you wrong, you in trouble. That's it.
Yeah. No,
now
that's
I'm like,
real talk.
You need to understand it. You know what I mean? You need to get like, oh, this is why I shouldn't do that. Not just don't do it. Because, I mean, again, it's just like anything else. You tell me don't do it, I'm going to do it just because I want to see what's going to happen.
And thanks to my wife. My wife in the relationship with her dad has kind of changed a lot of the ways that I parent. Is one of the things where you say, hey, that's wrong, and then you explain why that's wrong. But it's also like, then you have to add that layer of like, here's what's right. Here's how you got to do right? To kind of like the whole, instead of reactionary thing that we were talking about, Sam, like you have to be proactive and be like, all right, here's what you do. The other thing that I've learned as I've started to hang out with my father-in-law, and I call him Pops just because, hey, he's been the truest Pops to me in the whole time. And one thing I've learned, we were coming back from a vacation that we took to Murphy's the other day, and I realized like there's probably a very slim chance I'll ever have a son. Like there's a slim chance I have a son. If I have another kid, it's probably gonna be a girl. But then I realized like, oh shit, but my two daughters are gonna bring me two sons. So what I gotta do is, as you know, she's in high school, and last night, like, she has friends and they have a group chat and they're like FaceTiming, and it's two dudes, two girls, and I could easily react like, who the is this? Like, who are you talking to? But at the same time, I'm like, all right, that's not me reacting like that. It's not gonna stop them from talking. It's gonna stop them from me knowing about it, but it ain't gonna stop them from talking. But what I can do is be like, especially as a barber, right? I'm like, well, you got hair, kid, so you might want to come to the barber.
Get a haircut.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, it's also like, hey, whoever she ends up being with, like, that's a gained son, daughter, whatever. that comes into my life. So if anything, it's my job to kind of mentor them during the time that they're talking and getting to know each other, to make sure like, yo, I'm going to filter you out from any either negative experiences or lack of love that you have. Come here and I can show you what we want humans to grow up to be like, and
Right.
that's kind of how I'm viewing it now. Hopefully it works out.
Man, y'all some young dudes to be married, dog. How y'all navigating that, bro? It's hard out here.
Oh,
It's hard
you
out here.
flipping this? You
Yeah, I
flipping
gotta
this
ask
on us?
y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all
I
some
mean,
young
look, bro.
dudes.
Look, here's here's what I'll say for this short segment. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Josh. So Charlie doesn't necessarily know like as much as you and Mikey know about like my marriage and like at certain times like the issues that we've had. My
Yeah,
wife and I have really come back together in the last year and a half and being like a really strong unit. But we've had some troubled times, and you know, I got married at 21. Like I got married at 21. I was like I look. We both look, but me and my wife both looked at. She was 23. Was she 23 or 24? 23. She was 23. We both look back. I'm like, damn, bro, we were babies. I look back on wedding pictures. Mikey was there. I was a baby. I'm all like, I can't even grow a beard. I can't do none of it. Like, I was a baby. But the way I manage it is at the end of the day, I understand one thing about my marriage with my wife, and it could be different for anybody. My marriage with my wife, that's my best friend. You know what I'm saying? And even in any problems we've had, I've never never led to any disrespect for my wife. You know, that's my best friend. That's my rider. You've met her. You know what I'm saying? She's a rider. She's just a down. She's the homie, man. Like I tell her all the time, I wouldn't want to kick it with nobody else at night than you. I just want to kick it. Like we could just kick it and be homies. So the way I manage it is just that's at the end of the day my best friend. That's my homie, and like just like with any of the homies, with you, with Charlie, with Mikey, with any of my closest friends, I want to see the best for you. I want you to be the best version of yourself, and I just want you to, you know, I just want to see you thrive. And if
word.
even regardless to some degree if that's with me or not, like, and if that's a decision we ultimately come to, you're my best friend. I don't want anything less for you than the best for you. So that's the way I manage it, and that's the way like I
Yeah,
make
she
decisions.
kick your ass. Yeah, she kick your ass too, just so you
Ah, hey man, she got some hands on her, but I don't know if
know.
she's
Right.
quick enough.
About you, Charlie.
Dude, I came from I've had some fucked up relationships. And so when I found out, and that's on both parts, right? Like I'm not gonna put it on just like, oh, that girl was crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, but like there was some times that they may have been, but like nah,
I
no, but
know.
for real. You know how it is. But that being said, I wanted peace, man. I wanted peace and tranquility, and I found my wife, which I've actually known. I met her in fifth grade. We didn't, we were actually boyfriend girlfriend in fifth grade, but that was fifth grade. You know what I mean? I had a kid again at 17 with somebody else. Anyway, but there was this peace and calm that she brought to me, and I've never really referred to her as my best friend because I got a lot of homies that I got like some homies that these are my best friends. But she's been my partner and she's been my balance for me. Like before, I used to be attracted, and I still am. Like I'm attracted to. I compare it to food, and I call her my. It sounds corny, and I don't call her this all the time, but I refer to her as like a sweet potato because I love sugar, man. I love candy. I'm attracted to the candy stuff, but that thing's gonna bring me diabetes. It's gonna bring me diseases. It's gonna bring me all that stuff, right? Cavities. And growing up in Hayward, you got quite a bit of candy out there, and in the Bay in general. And so my wife, and my wife being she has that right amount of sweet, but she's a superfood that is just like, yo, I could if I need to spice it up with a little bit more brown sugar or something on there, I could do that.
She's gonna
She
enrich your life.
but exactly, she brings that balance to me, and honestly, the honesty of telling her like, yo, I work because I used to work at a restaurant, and I mean, you guys know how it is working at a restaurant. I'm like, yo, this is what's being flashed in front of me at all times, and the temptation is real. All that is real, but I also because I stumbled so much early on in life, and then having my daughter early on in life, it gave me that clarity of like, yo, I don't want somebody throwing a window at my car in the middle of the night. Like I don't want to be dealing, I don't want to look over my shoulder everywhere I eat because, oh, who you know what I mean? Like I don't want any of that happening. And my wife wasn't bringing any of that. And it took 7 years for me to decide, like, okay, that's it. Cause there was a lot of like post traumatic stress when it came to previous relationships and what to expect. So that has helped out. Therapy has helped out for me to like come to the root of what is causing these issues. And now I see her as like, she's a human, and like you were saying, Sam, I want nothing but the best for you. And I see that with everybody now because it's almost how we see capitalism in the world. Like someone's happiness doesn't require somebody else to be unhappy. Like you can gain your own level of happiness in that meantime. And that's how I view my relationship with humans now in general.
That's what's up.
My man done flipped.
Y'all
My
give
man done flipped the script.
right. Y'all give me some hope. It's still out there for me. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I hear you. One thing, we just kind of touched on a little bit. How do you balance being a father in the beverage industry? I know obviously we've been in a pandemic for a few months, but even before that, like our hours are late. You know what I'm saying? The lifestyle is different. I know you know me, like, even before me, you do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of moving, moving around, just, involved in different events, and with different organizations. How do you balance that as a father, as a person that also is very involved with your children's life? I know we've talked about it a little bit, like you and I are the same. Like when I'm out of town, I might wild out sometimes. I might have a night where I wild out of town, but when I'm back home, I'm in the crib. I'm at home. Like I ain't really going out. But talk about a little bit about how you balance that.
I mean, luckily, man, the bar man is, Sherry, that's my business partner there. We got a great thing going because she has two young granddaughters. So if I'm traveling, Sherry picks up my shifts. If she's traveling, I pick up her shifts. But the one thing we do though when we make the schedule is the kids are non-negotiable, right? So like basketball games or recital or whatever they got going on, I'm not coming to work. Period. Like that's just I'm not bending on that. Like I'm not missing those moments in my kid's life. And if I work anywhere that can't respect that, then I don't need to work there. Right? So even with Lush Life, I do all that traveling. Hey, I'm on the road for 2 weeks. Cool. When I'm at home, don't nobody bother me for 2 weeks because I'm hanging out with my kids. I got to give them the same amount of time that I'm giving the career because they go hand in hand, right? Like if I got the career, but my kids is wild, it's gonna mess up my career. Or if I got the kids great, but I'm not taking care of my career, then how the kids gonna be great because this is what feeds them. So it's got to be a balance, right? Just that's really my thing. Like I lay out the non-negotiables in the gate. Like Lindsay and them knew, hey, look, I get it. I got to work with y'all, but and I know we're going to be on the road and we'll do this and we'll do that. When I'm talking to my kids or when I'm on the phone and I'm FaceTiming all them, y'all leave me alone for a minute. I'll do my job, but they're my job too, and they're my job for a lot longer than I'm gonna have this job. You know what I mean? So y'all have to respect it. And if you don't respect it, all right, I'll find somewhere else to go. And like I said, luckily, I've been blessed to run into partners and work with people that respect that and understand that. You know what I mean? Most people don't have that luxury because most people in our industry, single, no kids, no responsibilities. They don't care. They out all night, every night. I don't have time for that no more. Like this is more important. A Saturday night off work, sitting at home watching movies or playing Madden or chilling out with them is way more fun than going out to the same 8 bars we all go to every other day of the week, any other time anyway, right? So I hang out during the week. They got to go to school in the morning. So, they're in the bed early on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. I'll go out and have a drink on Tuesday, Wednesday. But I also responsible enough to know I got to get my ass up because they got to go to school in the morning. So I'm not going to be out till 3, 4 in the morning drinking with y'all all night. And if you can't respect that, then you don't need to hang out with me no more either. You know what I mean?
Nah, I feel like JoJo be giving you that heat in Madden.
No, sir. He don't want 2K will be out this week. He'll lose some money to that, you know what I mean, this week too. So we good.
You mentioned earlier. You mentioned earlier. Like JoJo's known you as dad, as pops, as his father. And you gave him the opportunity to meet Josh. I want to know: has he ever met Jo? Is because I
On his
know you
birthday,
mentioned like Josh is different than Jo, but
yeah, on his birthday he did. He was like, okay, this is how my dad get that. So just to give y'all a backstory, we had some magicians come over for his birthday, you know what I mean, and hang out. You know what I mean? I don't hey, look, I don't want to ruin y'all sponsorship early, right? You know what I mean?
Ain't
So,
no, ain't no sponsorship, but
right. You know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all might end up
you
with a
know,
sponsor. I don't want to be
hey,
the
we
cause.
gonna get there. We gonna
Right, you
get
know what I
there.
mean?
We gonna get there.
So,
Don't worry about it.
But
We
they're
gonna
gonna
get
have to
there.
accept this as part of the
yeah,
conditions.
they came over and hung out and did some tricks. So, he learned who I was. And he was like, oh shit, like this how. So my partners, I got about, 7, 8 homies. We've been tight since kindergarten, first, second grade. Like my circle real small. You know what I mean? Here. I've grown it like guys like Sam, Charlie, you cool with Sam, you cool with me. It's
Appreciate it.
grown. But my homies here in the shy, like we've been rolling forever. And them all his uncles. So when he saw all of us, he was like, yo, like, this what y'all be doing? I'm like, yeah, nigga, this what we do. Like, now you old enough now to understand what we do. So now we can gradually ease you into it, but it's doing a dual thing. So when you get to college, and I never went to college, right? I was doing other things. But when you get there and all these kids is wilding out and drinking and drunk and partying and doing all, it ain't gonna be no big deal to you. Because you did that with us. And you see what it is, right? You see, you don't like when you wake up that next morning after you had, a few too many. You don't like that feeling, you know what I mean? Like, he don't like to drink, which I was like, that was the greatest thing I learned. Like, he had an incident with his friends a couple years ago. They went to a little party. He had a little bit too much to drink. I had to put my hands on him, But then he was like, I don't like how that makes me feel. So now, in my mind, I'm like, cool. When he gets to school, that peer pressure's out of there. He's not going to feel that. Because he's been exposed. I mean, there's a whole liquor store in my house. Like, he's been exposed and seen it and been around it to the point to where he knows what it can do, but he knows what it can't do either. So he's learning. He can't really know me till he's 21. When he's 21, we go, to the DR or, something crazy like that. Yeah, they'll get to know who his dad really is then, you know what I'm saying? He got a little taste, man, a couple weeks ago, but 21, he'll really know.
That's dope, man. Like, just that exposure to your children to let them know, like, because I feel like sometimes, and Sam, we talked about this, about whether you tell your kids you smoke weed or not, right? Like, the fact is, sometimes your kids need to know what it is to be a human, what it is to be you, and that it's like, yo, I do this too, but I know how to control it. I know how to handle it and how to have work ethic and responsibilities on top of that. There's nothing wrong with doing it. It's being able to handle the situation and still perform after that. So, and so like, to me, showing your kids, like you're saying, you have the bar, you have everything else, and he sees what it can do. It's not that temptation anymore, and it's not even like the rebellious spirit of that. It's just like, no, man. I mean, yeah, I can do it, but it's not gonna consume me. So that's dope, Josh. I like that.
I just wanted to expose. So I mean, I never got exposed, right? So me, I'm candid. I mean, I'm real open, man. My brother, man, my older brother's doing 132 years. You know what I'm saying? So he ain't never coming home, and it's like me, him, my cousins, a lot of us, we were never exposed to certain things. So that shit looked exciting, right? It was like, if you don't see it, but you see it glorified, and you see the guys on the block, and then you listen to certain music, and you see all that, it's like, damn, I want to do that. But you don't understand what comes, the consequences that come behind it. And that's the one thing I've always, like, I kept him out the streets by having him around my homies that were still in the streets. Mm-hmm. Hey, come here, talk to him. Mm-hmm. He don't really want to be out here, but he doesn't know anything but this. So he's going to tell you the real shit. He's going to let you know, like, hey, man, this ain't cool. Yeah, I'm doing it, but I don't want to. I don't have no other choice. I don't do nothing else. And I'm like, since he was 11, 12, 13, I've always had him around people like that. Like, yo, it's my boy Duck. He just came home. Go talk to him. Or this such and such. He just came home. Talk to him. This your cousin. He just did 23. I ain't seen this man since 94. He just came home. Talk to him. Understand. Because a young black male, I mean, dude, you want to get the girls. You want to look fly. That's just what it is. That's just society. You know what I mean? For all us young brown guys, right? Mm-hmm. We want to be fly. We want to get the girls. And 9 times out of 10, you got to go a different route to do that nowadays. So, hey, you could do it, and the success rate is really low of the guys who do it and make it. So let me show you the guys who did it and did it big, and they didn't make it all the way, and you can get those stories firsthand. Because, see, Dad telling you you'll understand it, but you won't really get
Ain't
it.
the same.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, dad just trying to keep me out of shit. Okay, cool. You know what? Talk to him. I used to be with him. You know what I mean? I got locked up with him. He just never came home. I did. So now, hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And that's quelled. Man, I'm proud of this dude because he ain't nothing like I was at 17, 18. It's the best shit in the world that my kids are better than me at that age. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that means by the time he's my age now, he's going to be past me again. And that's really the goal, right? We want to make sure they're better than we were. And he ain't in no trouble. Ain't nobody pregnant. He ain't in the streets. You know, I got to kill him off these girls, but, you know, he's a young man. What do I expect, right? He's a young man. He's going to do what he do.
You raise a young, charming, charismatic man. You know, those things are gonna happen. You know, those things are gonna happen. You know, one thing. What's that?
There's a new girl every 30 days, man. This dude's
subscription.
You know,
man.
yeah. One thing that really changed my life. You know, so I grew up in a situation where like I was born in Long Beach, raised in like Long Beach, Carson, the first few years of my life. You know, moved all around the Bay. And then before I settled in Hayward, and I settled in the North, you know, and like I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast. Like I was babysat by real gangsters, like real, like my parents didn't know. Like my dad's from Mexico, my mom's from Samoa. They didn't really didn't understand the lifestyle of what everything was, you know. So at a young age, I had real dudes around me that was really in the streets like that, right? One thing I hated One thing that I hated, but I'm extremely blessed now when I look back, is that my parents sent me away for high school. They sent me away from all of my homies. You know, I didn't go to Mount Eden. Charlie went to Mount Eden, but I didn't go to Mount Eden with the rest of my homies. I went to a small private school in the South Bay, right? But it gave me a different look at life because I saw like, oh, there's a 16, 15, 16-year-old pulling up in an Audi. You know, that's their first car. They got an Audi as their first car. They have a Lexus as their first car at 16. You know what I'm saying? And not like a 94 Lexus. This is at the time, like 2007. And I was in, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, bruh, like these, like their parents got real money. And it gave me a different look at life because before everybody that was around me came from the same situation. It came from the same situation as their parents didn't have a lot. Maybe their parents are immigrants. Their parents weren't around. You know what I'm saying? They were in the streets. Maybe they weren't in the streets, but they just weren't like focused on school, right? So one of the things I was very blessed with was a different look at life. And then it even after high school, I still was the same dude. I was like, I just want to hang out with the homies. You know, Mikey was around like when we would play shows. I was a wild dude. I wasn't always wild like in the streets, but I was an angry kid. I was angry at a lot of the cards that life dealt me. So I was a dude that was like, I want to fight all the time. Like I just want to like if we got a problem, we can get straight to it, you know? And it started to change for me, not only when my daughters were born, but when I started traveling alone. Because when I started traveling alone, I started to see like, oh, this isn't how everybody lives. Because to me, like I only knew one way that people live. And when I started traveling, you know, when I my first trip ever alone was to Toronto in like 2000, what 16, 17. It was the first trip I ever took alone by myself, and I was in the beverage industry. And you know, we talked about it on the last podcast when Charlie interviewed me about how much like traveling alone had an effect on me. Like, I don't have to be what everybody else thinks I am. You know, can you talk a little bit about like your own travels, what they did for you to see the rest of the world and see how the like a lot of the of like the rest of the country lives, and to get out of Chicago, to get out of
Yeah.
like, you know, get out of the South Side and be like, oh, there's there's a whole lot of different shit out here. I know you love the West Coast. I know you love Oakland. You love Vegas. You know, so can you talk a little bit about like those travels and how it exposed you to different sides of the world and change your perspective, maybe?
Yeah, it's similar to you, dog. Like I remember, man, growing up, my pops used to always tell us, like, "Yo, get out of Chicago." You know what I mean? Go see things. Go, you know, life's bigger than the block. Bigger than this eight, you know, square block radius that we live in. And I started traveling when I was 18, 19. Me and my boys take road trips. You know, one of my homies played at Iowa State, so we ride out there. Go go get on the college campus, hang out, see different people from all over the world. And but similar to you, I really didn't start traveling alone till I got in the beverage industry. So I remember my first trip. One of the first trips I ever took was to the New York Bar Show back in this like 2011, dog, like way back in the day, and it was like, oh shit, like this is okay, this is different. It's people everywhere. Everybody's cool. Nobody's tripping. Like, I don't got to be on guard. That was the thing. I was like, I don't have to be like, all right, where it's coming from, because I'm ready. I could just relax. I could chill. I could be me. And like with you, when we met in Portland, dude, like everybody sees me now, and like you know me pretty good. It's been about 3 years since we met. Everybody says, "Oh, Josh knows everybody." I don't like everybody like that. But traveling alone showed me to open up and start just meeting people, right? Like we come from the hood, so we don't really. If you ain't in our circle, I don't stay over there. You know what I mean? I'm cool with who I'm cool with, and that's it. But then I met you. I think Mo told me to introduce me to you. I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Mo was like, you need to meet him. I'm like, all right, I'll meet him. All right, whatever. I was like, cool. Hey, what's up, dog? And then we kept it moving. We didn't talk no more that night. And then I think the next day we all hung out for dinner. And we had a real conversation. I'm like, oh, he all right. He cool. This somebody I could trade ideas with. I could bounce stuff off of. And so it's shown me like I need to open up a little bit more and not be so on guard, so south side, so if you ain't with me, I don't need to. It's made me just open up as a person. It's become way more well-rounded. But in that, there's a lot of places just like Chicago. Oakland, just like here, dog. Like West Side Oakland and Chicago is the same. Like it's literally no
I
different.
mean,
Like
I feel like me and my chef were talking about this last night, and I was like, I feel so blessed in California because like when I've traveled to other places, I'm like, we got hoods in California, but our hoods got trees. We got palm trees. We got like our hoods are different. We got yards, and then I go to other places, and I'm like, bro, this shit is grimy. Like they ain't got no damn yards. They ain't got no like. But
first
I
time,
feel you. I feel what you're saying though.
first time I came out there and we did that first round of balance, and I think because again we didn't know each other that good then, so like I was just hanging out in the city by myself, and I'm just walking around, and like somebody was like, "Yo, you walking around West Oakland?" I was like, "Yeah." They was like, "That's dangerous." I was like, "Fuck, I'm from Chicago." Be like, I ain't scared of nothing, and I'm walking through, and you're right. I'm looking like this the hood, like this the regular neighborhood to me. Like it ain't. It looked like my neighborhood. It's nothing to me. So it showed me just the world. The world's just I love traveling because man, dog, like the whole world, as much as we're different, we all have things that are similar. You know what I mean? Like I walk around over there by Double Standard, dude, and I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When
I,
I'm on north side of Vegas, I walk around there, I feel like I'm at the crib. And it's like as much as it's different, there's still some similarities and there's still ways to move around. And there's good people everywhere in the world that, traveling opens you up to meet people like yourself, people like Gene, people like Mister, people like Mo. Where I go, Charlie now, like I go to different Mikey, I go to different places and I meet really good people that, had I just stayed in my little area, I'd never been blessed to have these relationships. So I appreciate it.
Charlie, what was it like for you moving out of the Bay for the you moved a little bit out of the Bay, like back and forth between Mexico and the Bay for like a little bit of your youth, right?
Yeah, so I was born in Mexico. Then I spent some time in LA until I was about 8, and then I moved to the Bay at that time. And then I exiled. Well, I went back to Mexico or Juarez again in about 2008, 2009. No, I'm sorry, 2007. And then I moved. I want to say I exiled myself to LA. There was a couple of things going on where I moved to SoCal, San Diego. Relationship fell apart, and I just needed to go. I couldn't come back to the Bay because I felt like if I don't accomplish something, if I don't get to what I'm doing, I'm just kind of running back with my tail between my legs. So I was like, I'm going to stay out here in LA and I'm going to fix myself and fix the trajectory that I'm on. So I never got a chance to really travel alone in the sense like I've traveled around. I've been to China, Europe, but I've been with people when I've gone. But LA, I was like, nah, I'm staying here alone, and I'm gonna kind of learn everything else around that. And I can relate to what you guys are saying, but I am definitely envious of like what's it like to go to city to city to city with no one else riding with you. Like that must be amazing. Like it's one thing to live in a city by yourself, but to travel from one world to another world, that's something else.
It forces you to build relationships, man. Like
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I can go to damn near any city in the U.S. and I could call somebody and be like, "Hey, where should I go? Or what's popping? Or what's going on?" You know, like every time I touch down in the Bay, like Sam, the first phone call, "Hey, dog, I'm coming." So
Yeah.
we're gonna hang out. Or if I go, to Philly, I got a homegirl up there. I can call her, but hey, I'm in the town. Like, where should I go? And so it forces that, and it makes you get out your bubble, right? Like I said, we from areas where you don't really do that. Everybody on the block knew each other, and that was your insulated community. And you really didn't have to leave.
Yeah.
And so now it's forcing you to kind of come out that comfort zone. And I think that's really important for people. Like I tell my son, hey, get out, you and your homies. Spring break come, man. Go to Miami for a week and hang out. Like, do things, experience things, see people, just live life, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the one thing as brown people we get to miss. Like, because we come from the struggle, like Sam was saying, you go to a different school and you see kids, oddies, and they popping, and you like, damn, like, why ain't it like that where I live?
Yeah.
But it's up to us to kind of change that narrative and get our kids to say, nah, y'all can do more, y'all can see more, y'all can be more than what we just know. You know what I mean?
Right. And Sam, you said something on the last episode too of like being able to go to Toronto and all those other places traveling by yourself. You created your own identity because there's nothing tying you to what you used to do or to your neighborhood, and you're finding out what's like that true, genuine self. I think I got a taste of that in LA for sure. But I think you get comfortable in that one spot. So I mean, I got a newborn, so I can't quite travel alone right now. But then again, I might. We'll see what's up. I'll go out for a weekend, go hit the spot up, see
Yeah.
whatever.
Like here was the thing, man. Like when I traveled alone for the first time and I started meeting people alone, right? When I'm there was a difference in how I had to interact with people. When I'm in California, it's like, oh, like people see you, and even if you're not necessarily like, I don't necessarily feel like I represent anything when I walk into a room, but it's just a culture of like California and the culture of certain places to be like, oh, where are you from? And like for me to be like, oh, I'm from North Hayward. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, so like it's just a different culture. So when I started traveling alone, it wasn't like I was tied to a neighborhood or tied to a section or tied to certain people. It was like people just wanted to genuinely know what your story is, and like to me that was just weird. Like it was like you're not necessarily judging me based on like the neighborhood that I come from or the area that I come from. You actually just like, and not necessarily every like it's not that positive stuff always comes from it, but like it was just it was a weird thing for me to be like when you ask me where I'm from, it's not like, "Oh, what section are you from?"
Yeah, yeah. What
It's
set you
like
claim or anything?
Right, right.
yeah. Like, that was just a honestly, it was a weird thing for me to get out of. It was a weird thing for me to get out of when I was first traveling. It's like, I don't gotta just like Josh was saying, I don't gotta, like, posture up when I come into a room and, like, carry myself like, "Alright, you ain't fucking with me." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I was just so used to, like, walking in a room and being like having to posture to again we talked about this on one podcast, like not necessarily to be the strongest dude in the room but not to be the weakest, so that like you know what I'm saying. So when I first started traveling alone and I started talking to people, it was like, oh, people are just genuinely interested in like, what you are as a person, and like it forced me to start thinking of like, who am I really as a person, like what is my story, because my story doesn't always have to be like the neighborhood. My story doesn't have to be that. Like, what do I actually represent? Who am I? What are the things that I think about? What are the ideas that I have in my head? You know what I'm saying? What do I think about society as a whole? What do I think about like these different systems? Because when you're in the shit all day, it is what it is. Like, like I
I
go to
think
Oakland, I'm from like they're like, "Oh, you from where you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from North Hayward." I'm not I hate I hate when people are like, "Sam Jimenez from Oakland." I'm like, "I ain't from Oakland, bro. I'm from North Hayward, bro, Longwood." What you talking about?
I do the same thing. Oh, Josh from Chicago. No, I'm from the South Side. It's two different Chicagos. Chicago, y'all talking about, that ain't where I'm from.
I think the passport to getting around everywhere you want to get around is being genuine. Like
Yep.
being real to yourself, being genuine, not trying to go for a vote like, oh well, would the vote of these people like me, or would the vote of that person? Just be genuine in who you are, and you'll get a passport to the world.
Yep. Authenticity, man. I tell people all the time, just be yourself, man. It'll get you way further than trying to be somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. I feel the same way, man. Like I feel like to some degree, like I know, like I feel like I'm good anywhere. I know that's not like I can't go anywhere and just be wilding out and not
Right,
like,
right.
you know what I'm saying, making sure that I'm
You don't
good.
want
It's not that.
disrespect.
I'm just, yeah, I just feel like I'm good because like you tap in with people and they're like, like as long as they see you're a genuine person, I ain't on no dumb shit, you know. And I got homies like that too. Like I got homies that are, from the hood and whatever it is what it is. But then I got like some of my best friends are just like the most square dudes and that's not in a bad way. That's just like you're real to yourself. You never try to act hard around me. You never try to be like, oh, like to match my energy in a room because I feel like I have to be a certain way. You're just a good dude. You're just a good homie because you care about people or you just want to be your true self. You never try to act like anything else. It's the people that try to act like when I walk in a room. I've had this experience at beverage conferences, Josh. I don't know if you have. I walk in a room and maybe I'm with Mister, or maybe I'm with you, or maybe I'm with Mo or somebody, and like people try to match that, like, oh yeah, I'm from this too, like, and I'm like, bruh, shut up, like, we ain't even
Because if
talking
you
about that right now.
because if you really about it, you ain't got to tell nobody. You know what I mean? Like if you really like that, you don't got to say nothing. People feel that energy coming off of you. You know what I mean? That's when we met. I was like, oh, these are some real dudes. I can rock with them because they genuine. They themselves. They ain't trying to be. Y'all not trying to be those quote unquote mixologists and all that other shit. Y'all just y'all. We just hanging out. I
Yeah,
respect people like that. People like that go way further with me in life than a lot of these people that just they do stuff for the clout. You know what I mean? I don't do nothing. I don't care who don't like me. It don't really bother me because you weren't supposed
we
to.
ain't
You know
on
what I'm
that.
saying?
We ain't on that. We ain't on that 6ix9ine stuff. We ain't on.
Never, never. Hey, did y'all see? Oh, speaking of them, side note, you see him run around Chicago 6 in the morning?
I seen him running around LA the same way, bruh. I ain't gonna get into it. It is what it is, man. Like that man's he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and he's gonna live the
That
life he
dude.
wants to live. But whatever happens, you reap what you sow to some degree, and I hope for everybody's sake that people stay safe and people stay sane. But I
The
don't know.
bad part is he
People be
can never
tripping.
get touched. Yeah, he can never get touched. So I'm like, that's why he's able. I mean, all them dudes around him is feds. He can't get touched. You know what I'm saying? Like you touch him, you going to jail forever. You know what I'm saying? So
Forever.
And I
He's
like,
going
guarantee
let him,
you,
forever.
he's got quite a bit of investors investing. There's
yeah,
business and money coming from that cat,
Yeah,
and
yep.
the FBI.
yeah, there's yeah that too, but yeah that dude.
They're invested in him.
But he's also gonna be a
Um,
throwaway. You know what I mean? At the end of it, once the checks run up, it's like okay, cool.
Look,
Yep.
Nipsey said something one time. Nipsey said something one time, and it's like to me the truest thing, right? It's like, and this comes back to music and talking about 6ix9ine. I'm just gonna talk about the music right now. When you make when you make a 100% like just hip hop song or hip hop album is gonna be timeless. You're gonna win over the course of time. But if you're just playing to the clout or playing to whatever the trend is in the moment, it's only gonna last for that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's why we see dudes fall off, like, and not necessarily say fall off. I hope the best for everybody, but like, you got certain artists that like will have that one hit wonder, two hit wonders, maybe one album that pops, but it's just a sound for that summer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that sound doesn't continue to resonate over the course of time. Whereas then you see artists that maybe didn't pop the same way immediately, but over the course of time, that catalog is just continuously played for over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know. People do stuff for the moment and it works in that moment, but
It's being genuine. It's quality, genuine authenticity to what you're doing,
Yeah.
and speaking your truth, because your truth is more than likely somebody else's truth. But when you're trying to live off clout, dude, hey, not everybody's got that. You know what I mean? You're not gonna relate to
Right.
people's. So
Right.
one thing I did want to talk about pivoting a little bit because we're damn near an hour now. It's just flowing conversation. But one
there
Good
you
thing,
go.
conversation.
obviously, obviously that I did want to talk about. We haven't talked too much about the beverage world. Touched a little bit on travels and stuff. But obviously, you are tied hand in hand with the organization you started, and that has obviously created a lot of room for people, black and brown bartenders, myself included, in the industry to be highlighted. Brown and Balance. Can you talk about the origins of it and what your main aim was? And then we'll get into a little bit of like the new deal that's coming up after you talk about origins and what was really the driving force behind wanting to make that a thing.
So to be honest, man, in the short version of the longer story, when I started, it was 2017. I just got tired of not seeing people that look like me being thrust into these positions of they're the best, they're the standard, this is what you should look like. And coming from where I come from, I've seen all type of bartenders, right? I've seen the old school barmaids, that lady that look like your auntie, that cuss you out at the bar and give you a drink. You know what I'm saying? I've seen the old school barmen, and they ain't gonna give you shit but a beer and a shot. You guys in for Manhattan, they gonna tell you go to New York. You know what I mean? So I've seen every type of bartender you can see, but what's being thrust to us, if you look at all those top 50 lists, or you look at like all these Eater and all these other publications that post things, I never saw people that look like you, look like me, and I was like, but there's a lot of us out here that do, major things in the industry that are influential in the industry, and I don't want it to just be the same 7 or 8. Shout out to my girl Tiff down in Atlanta, Jackie in New York. A lot of homies, that had a space. It was the same ones over and over and over again. I'm like, it's way more black and brown and all different, a kaleidoscope of colors of bartenders out here. So let me figure out what can I do to put us on the stage. So Brown and Balance came about. I was start working for Lush Life, and I was teaching at the Bar Institute tour when we was all over the country. I was teaching classes on things we talked about today, like parenting and work-life balance and different stuff like that. And I was like, well, I want to do more than just sit here and teach. Like, this shit is boring. Like, let me bring y'all into our culture. So Sam's been to Camp Run 'em Up. Charlie, I know you guys haven't, but there's an event at Camp Run 'em Up, which is basically a bartender summer camp for 150 bartenders. But there's an event called the Honky Tonk. Sam knows what I'm talking about. And while I love it, it's probably one of the most underlying racist things I've ever been a part of in my life. Because a lot of the songs that they're singing have like Confederate undertones and shit. Like, I usually walk out. I don't sit for all of it. Somehow brought to the team, like, yo, I don't really like this shit. Like, I can't be a part of it. I remember the last time I was at camp full time, like, I got all the black people, we all went outside. Like, we're not gonna say this shit. So we can have space for that. We need to have space to bring everybody into our culture. And y'all need to understand what we do too. Brown and Balance was born. It started off as basically, we're gonna go to a bar, we're gonna take over. We'll go to a black-owned bar in whatever city we're in. We'll have black bartenders, black chefs, black DJs. The person doing the graphics for it is gonna be black. Like, there's not gonna be any white people involved in the production of this event at all. And we're gonna make them be our guests, so you can see that stigma of brown people not giving great customer service, or brown people not being in that upper echelon of bartenders, that ain't true. We just don't have the access and we don't have the opportunity. But given opportunity, we're gonna kill this shit. So July 31st, 2017, very first one, man, I knocked it out with my brother Micah, who at the time was in Oklahoma City, probably the only black dude I ever knew in Oklahoma City. You know what I'm saying? Didn't play for the Thunder. You know what I mean? He was there, did it with me. We turned shows in Deep Ellum in Texas, in Dallas. We turned it into the black version of Holiday Cocktail Lounge in New York, man. It was a success, man. Everybody loved the event. And from that first one, we've now done 13 all over the country. DC, Oakland a couple times, Kentucky. I mean, just everywhere, man. This has been a blessing to be able to do it. I will pat myself on the back because every bartender who's been a part of Brown and Balance, since they've done it, have grown to either bar manage, open up their own spots, work for brands, start their own consulting things. And it's a testament to what I thought it was going to be. Though, if I put you in front of the brands have no choice at that point to recognize your talent. But if the brands don't come to our neighborhoods where we work, they never get to meet you. So I'm gonna force their hand, and I'm gonna take their money, and I'm gonna make them hire you on top of that.
100%. I will say, like in my case, I look back on my own journey, especially over the course of the last year. Like I've been written about in liquor.com. I've been written about in Imbibe. I've been written about in on punchdrink.com. You know what I'm saying? And I would accredit those to the same thing, bro. Brown and Balance was like really the first platform that gave me, or the first you were really the first one to give me that platform to like build and be like, I feel like a lot of those opportunities wouldn't have been able to happen if it wasn't for Brown and Balance, if it wasn't for Oakland popping off in the way it did. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll be honest, bro, I was bringing the heat anyways. Like motherfuckers could come to Blind Tiger. We were the most popping bar in Oakland. Like, I don't even think that's debatable for those 2 years that I was running it. The 2 years that I was running it, it was me and Mister behind the bar every Friday and Saturday night. We were the most popping bar in Oakland. I don't even think that's debatable. We were selling like $30,000 a night, you know. So I look back on it and I'm like, I just didn't have the platform. I didn't have the platform, and Brown and Balance is really one of the first platforms that allowed me the space to really be like, oh, that's a dude that's doing it. And ever since then, like the shit just done
Yeah,
skyrocketed.
this shit turned.
So
I never thought it would be this like what it's become. I just was like, I had opportunities because I kicked the door in and said, fuck that. Y'all gonna give me, I'm gonna show y'all how good I am at what I do. You know what I mean? But I wanted to make sure, again, reach back and make sure the guys behind you don't have to go through what you went through, right? So I kicked the door down, so while they fixing it, you can just open it up and walk right in. And that was my goal. It was like, it ain't about me, right? Like, I'm getting older. I'm not going to be the 50-year-old dude behind the bar. I'm just not. You know what I mean? But y'all are younger than me. Y'all got that fire. Y'all want to do it. Well, let me, whatever I got, I'm kind of like, and I hate to say this, man, kind of like how Kobe was in the end of his career, right? I fucking hate saying this because it's Kobe. You know what I'm saying? But God bless the Kobe.
hey,
But,
Mike never gave back to the league like Kobe did. Mike never gave back to the young dudes like Kobe did.
We do that. Mike did it. But kind of how Kobe took all the young guys under his wing. So like Giannis and Devin Booker and all them guys, like they were great, but then they had somebody who kind of opened some doors for them and just gave them some game to make them even greater. And now you see the fruits of that. And that's kind of what that was my goal. Like, I don't want y'all to have to do what I had to do. I don't want y'all to have to cuss out all you reps like I had to. You know what I'm saying?
So my man saying he's the Kobe of the industry, the Kobe of the industry.
No, I'm not saying
That's the new intro.
No. Matter of fact, hold on. Edit. The way it's not.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. Obviously, I appreciate you for everything that you do. Can you talk a little bit about the up? Actually, before we go into that, I know one thing that I really admire, not just about Charlie, but also about Charlie's mentor. Charlie works at a Brown owned barbershop in Berkeley, immigrant owned too.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like even before Charlie and I connected, I was following his boss, one of his mentors, on Instagram because he just had a very prominent like social media following, but he's also Samoan, so he like built this thing up, and like I knew who he was just off of the strength of being Samoan. Samoans are always gonna like try to support, not always, it is what it is, but some people be hating, but I was like, damn, this Samoan dude is doing it, man. It's like immigrated to this country and is really doing it. Charlie, can you talk about like some of like the maybe parallels in what you see? Because obviously, I know you talk about like looking at black barbershops as like some of the places that are really putting mental health to the forefront of the conversation when it comes to barbering, but also what that means for you to work for if it even does mean anything for you to work for an immigrant, but also a brown person who owns a really prominent barbershop in the Bay Area.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Like to me, when it comes to the barbering industry, similar to what you're saying, Josh, there's definitely some racism when it comes to who gets highlighted, who doesn't, what hairstyles you're seeing in magazines and all this other stuff. When you got artists like Smash the Legend, you got the GOAT, you got so many people out there in the hair industry that don't get that same amount quite of publicity as others might. And I definitely do feel proud of working with Mark, um, in the shop, because so our shop is, we're all independent barbers, and we it's predominantly kind of color and mostly Bay Area bred and here, but it's also in an area of Berkeley where the gentrification is starting to pop up. So a part of me starts struggling because, well, my prices are going up, and so I'm kind of like, not intentionally, but a lot of the people of color that we all fuck with aren't able or don't want to come and pay 65, 80, $100 for a haircut. I don't blame them in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, okay, well, if there is someone out there that you rock with and is cutting you for 35, 25, whatever, I'm not gonna knock that. I will want to talk to that barber and say, yo, you gotta like know your worth a little bit more, bro. Like, you gotta step it up. But I'm not gonna knock the consumer for finding somebody that also gives you quality for that cut at a cheaper price or whatever. But I love working with Mark, and what he's done for us is that, you have an immigrant in the U.S. from Samoa, and brown, and freaking just putting in work and putting this brand out there. Not only putting a great brand, but putting a price that you would normally only see at like a white shop, or not even a shop, a salon, right? You would see like those high prices. So I've appreciated the work that he's put in to kind of make me recognize that it's okay to be who you are, and to also have a value, have worth, and say like, yo, you can charge this much, and it's okay as long as you're bringing in the work ethic. You know what I mean? As long as you're doing all that.
If it's the quality, people should pay for it, right? Like,
it's a quality thing, and also like if your area requires a certain amount of money to survive in, and there's people that are willing to pay for it, then charge what you're worth, man. If you want it, because if they want to continue to have that quality service that you're giving out, that experience that they're getting, hey, I know who you are when you come back in the shop, and yes, we got your cut down and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? We could talk, and you feel comfortable, and you come out feeling great. Then charge for that, because you need to live here, and they need to be able to continue to have you here, and so you got to have it reflect. So
that's the thing. The important thing you said, the experience. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. Like, I can grab some clippers. I'm bald, so I grab some clippers. I could do this at the crib.
Right.
But I like going to the shop because of what I get from going to the shop. Mm-hmm. And now I know a place I can go in Oakland to get a cut now, in Berkeley rather. So Sam, take me, Charlie, when we
hey,
you know what I'm saying?
As soon as we open up, I got you.
Yeah.
As soon as we open up, man.
I ain't gonna scramble when I come to the city and try to find a cut. Now I go somewhere and get cut. They get right, but it's the experience. I think that's the thing about Brown and Balance is the experience. The drinks is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. The drinks is great. All the bartenders are hella talented. You know what I'm saying? They super dope. But it's that experience that you're coming into. Like, I always make the joke, if we walk into a white club, everybody's going to look like, what they doing here? But 3 white dudes can walk into the club with us and just get immersed right into the party, for the most part. And that's what I want you. I want y'all to feel that, y'all can come hang out with us where we live, where we hang out at. Y'all don't always have to, go to, like I said, every city we go to the same bars, right? We go to New York, there's certain bars everybody wants to go to. We come to Oakland, certain bars, it's the same. I'm like, y'all do know there are other bartenders out here in the world, right? Y'all do know there are other people outside this little quote-unquote mixology bubble that we have. Let's try to find those places and those little hidden gems and go hang out there. That's how people found me. That's how I got the opportunities I have. Lindsay came to my bar one day. Lindsay that runs Less Life randomly came to my bar one day. And now look what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So until as a whole we get to that point where we go and try to find those dope experiences, the industry won't move. So that's what I'm trying to kind of force the hand and make people like, look, you need to go to hometown and see Mister. You need to go to wherever Sam works today, because Sam got more jobs than
hey man, I'm out here grinding, dog. I'm out here with all the bags.
I think Sam's part Jamaican. He got a job every week. You know what I'm saying? Like he a gig. You know what I mean? So it was like, but it's like until you get in your head to go and seek that out, the industry will never move forward. So I'm gonna force it now. I'm gonna put that circle into the square and make it happen.
I hear it. One thing I did want to say, one of the dope things about just going to any barbershop that I love, man, is that you always have the conversations where I could be like, yeah, man, Kobe is better than Mike, dog. You know what I'm saying? It's a good thing about the good thing about the barbershop. Be like, yeah, man, Mike may be like in my top 10, but not like nah. But we gonna get to that.
We'll edit that too, yeah.
We gonna get back. We gonna get to that. One thing I did want to talk about before we start to wrap this segment up is talk about the new deal, man. New situation you got going
Yeah,
with Thirsty and Campari. Obviously, the continued relationship with Lush Life, but how did it come about? Obviously, you were doing the happy hours on your own, just on Instagram, but now you got some Campari and Punch really investing time, energy, and I hope resources as well into making this a thing for you. Can you talk a little bit about that and launch time and what's going on with it?
yeah, for sure, man. Well, shout out to Campari One, man. Campari America has been, I mean, they've been unbelievable as partners. It started off with the Juneteenth event that we did on Facebook, um, and they sponsored that. And I was able to bring a lot of different black. I think that was the first time we all were in the same room at the same time. It was Cocktail Bandits and Black Bourbon Society and Radical Exchange. I mean, just everybody that's in the country making moves. Because again, I never wanted it to all be about me. I wanted to always show the love, spread the love, because it's a lot of dope black leaders all across the U.S. that we're all pushing the same thing. We're all trying to get to the same place. So Campari sponsored us, on Juneteenth to be able to come together, talk about what everybody's doing. That was great. And from that, the reception that came from that was insane. So Campari doubled back and said, hey, let's keep this going. So starting on the 4th, I don't want to give too much because I got to do a live announcement on the 1st, on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day the 1st is on. I got to do a live announcement.
This is gonna air after that, anyways. We gonna put this out on the 3rd or the 4th.
Okay, perfect. Well, basically on the 4th and every one Friday every month, we're gonna do like a variety show. So think In Living Color and Mad TV meshed together and met the bartender version of Charlemagne the God and met just black bartenders all over the country. So Campari sponsoring it, so you'll see a lot of wild turkey. You're gonna see a lot of vermouth. You're gonna see a lot of everything. We're gonna be drinking. We're gonna have fun, but we're also gonna bring a lot of talent to the stage. So we're gonna have a featured bartender every month. First month will be Brittany Clark from North Carolina. A lot of people don't know her. She is fucking dope. And I'm selfishly want to be the first one to kind of put her out there. She is y'all will see. She's just super amazing, super sharp, super talented. Young in the industry, but she's hungry and she wants it, and she's gonna go get it. And so we're gonna put on the platform. But along with that, we're gonna have segments. So we're gonna have Paris Brothers from Atlanta. Is gonna be bringing on a couple bartenders to talk about parenting in the industry. My girl Mia Love, man, shout out to Mia. She's gonna come on and talk to people about credit because that's important. Financial health is super important. So we're not just attacking liquor. Liquor is cool. We talk about this shit all day long, but when the bar closes, as we've seen, there are a lot of other things that are a lot more important to all of us. We're regular people like everybody else. We just happen to work with alcohol. So it's really not just about the industry, but it's going to be more so about just bringing people to you, right? We're not just black bartenders or brown. We're bartenders, right? I know we have to make the distinction, but I want to get away from having to make the distinction all the time, right? So for this week, we'll do it, but it's just going to be, I can't even describe it, dog. It's gonna be crazy, man. But Thirsty's gonna put out an article every week with the featured bartender. So we're gonna have the featured bartender on Thirsty. Then we're gonna have that bartender get interviewed live on Facebook. It's gonna be 2 p.m. Eastern, so I think that's like what 11 a.m. for you guys.
3
That's
hours.
noon, I think. Oh no, 2 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, that's 11.
Yeah, for you guys on the West Coast, and then along with that, so we're gonna do that live with Campari every week, and then the after show will be the uncut after show will be on Instagram on Brown and Balance. We're gonna break somebody else.
BET Uncut.
I can't say what I want to say with those sponsorships all the time. So we're gonna
have them
just slide it over to my personal channel, and then we're gonna keep it going and just bringing more faces that look like ours, man, to the masses, man. It's important, man. Shout out to Lush Life. Campari, Thirsty. Everybody's gonna be a part of it, man. I get to interview one of my OTs, like Sam called me his, but one of my big brothers in the industry, man, Dwayne Sylvester from DC, man. He's gonna be one of the guys I interview real early in the game. This is gonna be amazing, man. One of the guys I've always looked up to, helped me out in the industry, man, and really, kind of showed me the way to go for me to be able to do the things I'm doing now. So it's just gonna be dope. Super, super dope.
That's dope. And this
Dope,
comes out
brother.
on the
I'm glad.
first.
On the 4th. So on the 1st, I'm gonna do the live announcement
Okay.
on the 1st, and then that'll be on Facebook. I'll actually send y'all the links if y'all want to post the links when we post this. I'll send all y'all that so people can definitely tune in and check it out. And then on the 4th will be the first one, and then on the 7th will be the first Brown and Balance back on Happy Hour on Instagram.
Sick, bro.
Josh, man, I'm happy you got everything going for yourself. Obviously, big brother to me in this industry, and I'm glad to see Brown and Balance continuing to grow, even in such an uncertain time, even in such a crazy time, continuing to make moves and do positive things. But not even just that, continuing to see you, live a full life. Young boy JoJo's going off to HBCU here in what, a week, 2 weeks, however long.
No, 4 days, man. 4 days.
Yeah. So, man, I'm glad that our first esteemed guest on this podcast for episode 10 is my man's a big brother. So I just want to say thank you, and also give you the space. Honestly, one thing that we did do on the last podcast, if you keep it short and sweet, if there was one piece of advice you could give to your younger self, what would it be?
Man, never settle and keep pushing.
Dope, Charlie. You got anything?
I got to know you a little bit more, and like I said, I didn't get to travel the way that you guys got to travel, but being able to hear you right now reminds me that we gotta go around and talk to different people, and there's people all over the world that can resonate with what you're doing, and I appreciate that. It gives me hope. It gives me hope because being true to oneself, like I was talking about earlier, it's that passport, man. It sets you free. So I appreciate you for coming in and everything that you've been doing, bro. So thank you, man. Good luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on, man. It's dope. It's a good way to spend a Saturday afternoon. You know what I mean?
100%. So thank y'all for tuning in to episode 10. Please like, share, and subscribe on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Stitcher. And we will see y'all next week with another one. Um, there's been some crazy things going on in the week. Being obviously one thing that I always come back to is like there's not a lot new about it, right? There's not a lot new about it, but it's also because of the advancement of technology, something that is kind of at the forefront of conversations a lot of times because now we have the technology to record it. But Jacob Blake is a man who was shot 7 times in the back by Kenosha police um, earlier this week, and the country has kind of been again in a lot of emotions are flowing. Right, it's not just sadness; it's a lot of anger, and it's a lot of uncertainty, and it's a lot of just demand for something to happen regarding this. And from my perspective, I just like if you're on, it's unjust, bro. It's unjust, and it keeps happening. But to me, it's also like it's nothing. It's not anything new to me, and not to say that anybody's obviously there's a life in Jacob Blake now, paralyzed currently, and it's extremely sad. It's extremely unfortunate. And I don't know, what are the general feelings, Charlie, Josh, that you have regarding the situation? To me, it's always like kind of a loss of words because it's like, how many
Yeah.
times does it have to happen? You know?
Go ahead, Charlie.
We talk about, when it happened and how Sam, you, Miggy, and I, we were just kind of stuck. Do we say anything? Do we post anything on Instagram? What do we say? Is it just, is it like how much more do we got to, say about this? You know what I'm saying? And we were talking about how it's not shocking, but we don't want to be numb to that situation. Ultimately, when I think about it and when I'm like, as a human being, trying to stop an altercation. I try not to watch too many of the videos, but I saw this. Going back to your car, whether someone's telling you to stop or whatever it is, I did not expect, and if I was him, I would not expect 7 shots in the back. What? Like it's just like I don't know what else to say. It's just not something that is a logical thing. I'm reading things about like, oh, he had a knife, bro. In the video, what you're seeing, what is going on right there in that moment, and obviously I'm not there, but dude, there was no threat going on. There was nothing warranting 7 bullets to the back, or there was also no forethought of what happens after I shoot this person. Who's around? Where did the bullets go? Am I taking him out? Am I killing him? And what am I doing to the kids or anything else? There was no regard for safety for anybody else in that situation except for the fear that that officer had. And I know that being a cop is a tough job. I get that. I understand the fear of one when the community probably doesn't trust you. I get that you might have a little bit of fear in there. I also get, like we talked about before, about how, well, shit, even if you were to speak out against someone in your police force that does something negative, now you have the fear of, are they going to come at me? You know what I mean? For speaking out against one of my own. So it's a tough ass job, but that's why we have to hold that to a high standard. It's not that in my opinion, it's not that we don't need safety, but we need to make sure that you are holding yourself accountable to a standard, to the same standard that you're holding the civilians that you are policing to. Hold yourself to that same standard because no one's holding themselves to that.
Yeah, to that, man. I mean, I got a lot of thoughts on this, man. I have one question I posed to some guy that was trying to justify it last week, and I said, okay, you know what? One, I'm not going to argue with you because there's no justification for what that cop did. And to agree with you, yes, Charlie, being a police officer is a tough job. Like I wouldn't want to be. I never wanted to be police. I got family members that are cops, and all I ask people is this: okay, so being a cop is tough, it's stressful, it's fear, it's all that. I get that. Well, then why don't I ever see black cops on television doing this? Why do I only see white cops doing it? If it's that stressful, because I'm very sure black cops deal with the exact same things, non-compliance, aggressive suspects, all that these white cops deal with. But for some strange reason, I don't see no black cops all over the news for killing unarmed black people. And when one of these people that try to justify what happens, when they can answer that question and make me believe whatever bullshit answer they're going to give me, I'll concede. You know what I mean? Because to be real, they take these cops and they throw them in the hood. Most of these dudes is rookies, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. They not tenured police officers that know how to deal with the public. And they throw them in the hood. So it's already a distrust of the police in our neighborhoods. And then they, on the flip side, are looking at us in a certain way. You know what I mean? Already because of what's portrayed, on the news and social media, all that, about black people that live in impoverished neighborhoods. So now it's just a powder keg waiting to blow because most of these dudes, they ain't never dealt with us. Like I've had white people in our industry. I'm aggressive. I talk big. I'm not a little guy either. And I talk big and I talk aggressive. And they feel like I'm being argumentative. Like I'm not. I'm just talking to you. Because of the stigma of what they feel, big black dude, oh shit, he got to, and you add a gun and thinking something's going to happen to that. It's just a matter of time before this continues to happen. Like, this shit ain't going to stop. Just because there's cameras around, it ain't going to stop. You know what I mean? And it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, man. Like, just the fact that cop unloaded with kids in the car. That's a half a clip, depending on what kind of gun you got. Kids in the car. What one of them bullets with a ricochet went through Jacob, ricochet hit one of them babies. You know what I mean? So I I be trying so hard, man, but nah, yo, it's most people don't even know that the origins of the police will come from slave catchers. A lot of people don't know that. I was talking to some people, Charlotte USBG, and I was like, police come from slave catchers. So when slave catchers would say, and you're off the plantation, and would say, let me see your past while you're over here, it's the same difference as a police officer saying, what you doing over here? Where you going? What's happening? What you doing? You fit the description. It's the same dichotomy. So right now, like, I ain't got no love for no police officer, because until the quote unquote good cops start talking about these other cops, y'all all the same to me. And that's family members, everybody else included.
One thing, and I don't know if it's the same in every state, but one thing I think is a major part of the problem, right, is that within California, and I'm not 100% sure if it's the same in every state, but in California, once you get out of the basically the sheriff's academy, we go straight into prison.
Mhm.
Like, your first assignment is in prison as a correctional officer for like a year, 2 years, or whatever it is. I got my young cousin is graduated from the sheriff's academy, I think last year, and now he's a correctional officer in prison, right? And you can have the best intentions going in, right? But prison will change you, man. Prison gonna change you, because not only on the officer side, not only on the correctional officer side, but also within prison, bro. Like, California prison politics are so race driven. Like, it's so race driven that, like, all that matters in there is the color of your skin when you're in prison. You know what I'm saying? You black, you ride with the blacks. You Mexican, depending on where you're from, Southern or Northern California, you ride with the South Siders, you ride with the North Siders. If you're white, you ride with the Woods. If you're brown, or if you're any of the others, you probably ride with the others. You ride with the Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, Asian. You all ride together. But everything is based on the color of your skin. You know what I'm saying? So when the value of your life is based on the color of your skin in prison, and we expose our young officers to that immediately straight out of the academy, then all you're going to think about is the color of your skin. When you're in that CO position, when you're in that correctional officer position for 2 years, and everything is race driven, and everything is, oh, you white, you on their side. Oh, you black, you on their side. You Mexican, or you South Sider, you a North Sider. Um, and I think that's a major root of the problem within California. I don't know if it's like that in every state, but I know in California that's a major root of the problem, because then you release these officers after, and a lot of them are young, after a year in prison, 2 years in prison as a correctional officer, and you release them to the streets. You expect them to not see color anymore? You expect them to, like, just continue operating the way it was before, when they had
or
the
see
purest
them as,
intention?
like, see them as citizens, right? Or see them
Yeah,
as not prisoners that you need to correct. Like,
Right.
it's not, my fault for interrupting.
no, you
Um,
good?
but yeah, I think that's kind of what we talked about last time too, or what I was mentioning, that the job has switched, right, from what they originated as being like as a way to slave patrol, to where we're at now. We expect them to be different than what they were. That doesn't mean that the training has changed from what it was, and society as a whole has expected that shift as well. But that's not necessarily what's happening in the training and in the mindset of what's going on when you're being trained to that. So, I mean, I'm hoping that a shift is coming. Unfortunately, it's taken a long ass time, and this isn't nothing new, right? We've been talking about it in hip hop for a long ass time, and they were talking about it before that. So it's not new, and it wasn't like it's a moral thing, because it's not like people don't know, hey, maybe killing an innocent person isn't the right thing to do. but it's just like that
And there's
fucking
some motherfuckers out there. There's some motherfuckers out there that are being like, "Oh, you had a prior misdemeanor on your
yeah, God
on your
complex.
record. You had a what? You had a felony on your record from 12 years ago? Nah, you deserve to be shot." There are people. Those people are out there.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, those people are also doing the same motherfucking misdemeanors, but they don't have that shit on record. I guarantee you.
And then the flip side of that, then you get this kid like Kyle. I don't know Rittenhouse. I was like, okay, the amount of charge. Like if you just look at what he did before he even shot someone, the amount of charges he should have against him. Underage, he's 17, he's carrying an AR. So you're underage. So you're not legally carrying a firearm. Then you illegally carry the firearm across state lines. Then you conceal and carry, and you don't have any license. Like that's three felonies right there before we even get to the homicide. The two homicides and the attempted because somebody survived. And he's walking toward the police with his hands up with an AR on his chest, saying, and people are saying, yo, he shot somebody. And the police drive right past him.
Yeah.
Literally, like, told him to get out the way and drove right past. I'm like, if people can't see just what's wrong in the world, like, you can't reform that, right? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't argue with people anymore. I'm like, because there's some things you just can't reform, you know? Like, if you can't see that for just what it is, let's just take all the political bullshit out of it. A black man doesn't have any gun and is getting in his car and gets shot in the back. One, the fact you're getting shot in the back means I'm going away from you. I'm not a threat at all, right? So, like, I got an FYD. It's law in Illinois. If you break in my home, yeah, I got guns in the house. But if I tell you, hey, I got a pistol, I'm about to shoot, and you're leaving out my house, even though you burglarizing my crib and you leave out, and I shoot you in the back protecting my home, I'm going to jail. So, but a cop can shoot a guy in the back 7 times. But yet a child can walk towards you with an AR and you drive past him, probably responding to a shots fired call that he's the shooter.
Yeah.
If you can't see what's wrong, just don't even talk to me because I can't. Your brain is so warped as to what real life is. Then there's no reason us even discussing it because you'll never see what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm biased. I'm a black man. Yeah, I'm a little biased, but these things are happening to people that look like me.
Right.
So I can't help but be biased. You know what I'm saying? It could be me. It could be my son. It could be any of us. And I pray every day it's not, because all this cool brown and balanced shit gonna go right out the window. It's gonna be different because I'm not. You know, Robert Ory said it the other day. You know, he was like, he told his son, was like, he said, man, if you gotta lay down and just take an ass whooping from the cop, just do that.
Do it.
Like just do it. He said, because that cop got the gun and the power to end you. And if he ends you, I'm gonna end him. And I was like, that was the most powerful shit I ever, because I've never heard an athlete say that. You know, man in his position. Say, because most athletes play it safe. But, you know, at a time, athlete or not, it could be you. The cat from the Bucks got assaulted. Thabo Sefolosha got assaulted by the police. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, the money and shit don't mean nothing. You know, we can't hide that we black. You know, we can't hide that we brown. We can't do that. It's just a matter of time before it can, unfortunately, happen to any of us. You know what I mean?
You know, I was listening to a podcast earlier this week with Bill Simmons and D. Ray McKesson, I believe is his last name, and they're talking a lot about just you know what reform looks like in holding police unions accountable and how to do that, and like the politics behind all of it. And you know, one thing that I thought was prominent, just as you're uh talking about Robert Ory, is yeah, like a lot of these athletes like haven't necessarily spoken the way Robert Ory spoke. But also like the position that the shift is happening. Like there's a shift happening, and we can see it right in the way that these athletes are taking a stance. One thing I want to touch on before we really get there is that at the end of the day, one thing I keep coming back to is like, and we talked about it a little bit before the podcast, is like for black people, especially, but speaking myself for like brown people, we just had a situation in San Jose with a lot of police brutality that started to get a lot of news coverage with like two Polynesians celebrating their birthday in a hotel room. This couple, a Samoan girl and a Tongan dude, got beat up by police. They were just celebrating their birthday and like no resistance. Um, a lot of what I come back to is like, bruh, when are we gonna get to the point where like we stop relying on the police to protect us? Stop looking at them as like this entity that's like here to protect us. They ain't here to protect us. They ain't here to protect me. I ain't gonna depend on them to protect me. I never have my whole life like that, and that's another issue of like the culture that we're in is that I had to grow up, you know, thinking of the police as like this negative entity. I don't even know when that started. It's just been ingrained in me my whole life. Like I feel like I don't know when it happened, but it's just like I ain't depending on no cops. I ain't calling no cops. Like we had a little situation where I don't know years ago where we thought my daughter was missing, and like I ain't calling no cops. And maybe that sounds dumb to people, but to me, I'm like, bruh, I ain't dependent on these people. And so I know that there's nobody that's coming to save me. If something happens to me, they could care less. Like there ain't nobody that really gives a shit. So, and that's a hard thing for I think for people to come to. And I wish it wasn't like that. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I didn't have to think like that. But I know for a lot of black people and a lot of brown people, that's the way they think. Especially when it comes to, and I don't know, Charlie, if you ever tie this together or if it's separate for you, but especially when it comes to like immigration and stuff like that too, you know, like why the fuck would I trust a cop? I grew up, my dad was an illegal immigrant. Why the fuck would he trust a cop?
Yeah,
Motherfucker, if somebody could rob your house, you call a cop, they deporting you the next day.
yeah, I've seen that happen
Yeah.
firsthand.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
look at our
it's
homie Xander right now. Sorry, Charlie.
no, you're
Look at
good.
Xander. He about to, our homie, man. They trying to deport him. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't.
I think with Switch, man, and these aren't all like perfectly formed out thoughts of mine that I'm having, but like, you know, um, yeah, I don't think that people trust police, and I don't want to say people, right? Because there's a lot of people out there, but the communities that we come from don't trust police, and especially don't trust the police that are policing that community. There might be other communities in affluent areas that are like, oh yeah, no, the cops will be fine. I know when I've gone to Airbnbs, and I'm pretty white passing, right? When I've gone to Airbnbs where there's like a police department right down the street or in that same area, I'm like, okay, I feel safe, as in like maybe someone won't burglarize my house, but like I don't feel that way uh in my neighborhood where I grew up or anything else. I know that because the property owners that are here, blah blah blah, whatever, it's a nice rich area or whatnot, but in a demographic of a little bit lower income and brown, you're not getting that same feel. Um, so that's not a problem. I mean, it's a problem for us because we don't have the guns, we don't have the authority, right? But that's a problem for the police because it's like, yo, ultimately, you're not doing your fucking job. Ultimately, you're not doing your job correctly when the people who are not only paying your salary but that you're supposed to be protecting do not feel safe with you. You got to check yourself, man. You got to recognize that, hey, you have too much fear coming into this area. You need to get to know who these people are and find out, because like, how they always say, report anything you see to the police department. Why would I snitch on a member of my community when you don't report anything about what your community has done to the community that you're policing? What the fuck? Out your goddamn mind. So now that doesn't mean that I don't think that if someone is doing something wrong in my community that I won't go and check them myself or say, hey bro, that shit doesn't fly here or whatever. But or that we don't need safety in our community. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like, but I might be policing my community myself with the rest of the community members before I go and tell you who's gonna come and do some crazy shit.
100%. I don't know. I mean, the thing I keep coming back to again, like, is nobody's coming to save you. You know, when do we get to the point where it's like, all right, free ourselves up economically to really impact change in a real way, you know? And that's like so much of where my energy has been focused is like, all right. And but the hard part is like even when organizations have freed themselves up economically to impact change, like the United States government has wiped out these fucking communities that have done that, you know? The Black Panthers, Black Wall Street in Tulsa, like it's like, all right, so now you're gonna punish us for trying to do right by our community too?
Yeah.
You know, what is the answer? And like the reality is I don't know if there's a singular answer.
And why are we
Because
asking them
I
for
don't
the answer? And why do
Yeah,
we have to
it's like
provide
Killer
an
Mike
answer?
said. Yeah, it's like you reference Killer Mike. It's like he said, like, yo, tear this whole shit down. At some point, it all just got to go away, right? Like, because what did he say? He said we're witnessing free people argue over who had the best master, and that shit was. I was like, yeah, like, okay, cool. Democrats, this is what we want. Republicans, this is what we want. Who can make it happen? Whoever can't make it happen, fuck them both, and just rip the whole establishment down and do our own thing. You know what I mean? That's the only way
Woo,
I see
buddy.
it happen. You know what I mean? Just,
And I mean,
I
Woo,
mean,
buddy. Yeah.
and
yeah.
that's going to take work, right? That's a revolution. You know what I mean? That it might be a violent, non-violent revolution. Ideally, we go with non-violence in the sense that we you know, you can go, what? Hey, Sam, what were we talking about? That business is war without guns, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those like, okay, well, like you said, Black Wall Street, all that other shit. We start empowering our communities. We start investing back into what we want and finding leaders in our community that represents what we want. Take over local government, take over all that, and you know, elect the people that represent us. Okay, cool. We make change in our city. We make change in our police department, in our district attorney's office, all that, and then from that bubble spreads. It gets bigger and bigger. But I mean, Biden, Harris, Trump, that shit ain't gonna fucking. They ain't gonna save us, and they
That
don't
what
give
you
a
want?
fuck about.
Oh
But,
my
yeah,
god. I don't even want to talk about Biden and Harris. That's
yeah,
just so
like I
damn
don't like them
depressing to me.
either. But you know, it's
I mean,
fucked up. It's like I don't like them either. But like we was talking when I was there, Sam, like I don't like them either. But it got to be better than what's already there. You know what I mean? And it's like I'm tired of us always having to decide the lesser of two evils. You know what I
You know,
mean? And that's
here's like and I'm probably gonna get some hate for this too. Um,
sad.
I don't think that there's different issues that people are fighting right now because there's so many fuck ups in the U.S. Right? There's the health insurance crisis and just being able to provide medicine for a lower cost. There's global warming. There's all these different issues. I think that maybe one side of the political party might be able to tackle some of those things, whether it's Medi-Cal or Medicare and global warming. But I don't think any of those are going to try to really tackle the issues of policing and what's going on in America. I think, and that's the tragic part, right? Because we got to care for our people. We also got to care for our planet. So there might be people that want to vote Biden because, oh, well, he might have a better view on global warming and he might have a better view on the medical system, which I don't fucking know if he does. I don't know what that dude wants, really, to be honest. But I just don't know if Biden or Harris are going to be really putting these struggles that we're having with the police department at the forefront. They might try to do it for election, but I don't think they're really going to follow through on that shit.
She a cop, so
Exactly.
she a DA. I don't trust DAs. So you know what I'm saying? Like she a prosecutor, bro. I can't see. Just like our mayor, right? Our mayor's a cop, and I see why things are the way they are. Like her response to stopping all the riots and everything that happened. Like, don't get me wrong, I ain't got no problem with these cats looting downtown Chicago. Tear that shit up. I could care less. Dior and Macy's, and they got so much insurance, it doesn't matter, right? But our mayor's response to that was, I'm going to up the bridges since you can't get to this side, but now everybody south has to stay south. So now guess where them looters are going next?
Hmm.
They come to our neighborhood, and we already ain't got shit in our neighborhood. It's one grocery
Yeah.
store every 5-10 miles. You know, it's the things that we need. It's no Walgreens, it's no CVS, and the ones we do have got tore up. So now we're fucked. And it's like I never look to politicians, anybody, to police the police, because to me they all cops, because the police is putting money in their pockets by the things they're doing. So one hand, their one hand washes the other. You know what I mean? So I have no trust in any of them.
Yeah.
Y-
It seems like
Go ahead.
ultimately the police and the government goes after, like, they protect property owners, right? Because everything's about property. Um, and so I feel like what we got to do, this isn't going to solve the problem, but the next step is against that group economics of we need to start owning shit. We need to start owning land. We need to start, learning how to invest so that we're not at the mercy of the government and everything else. You create your own little country and your own little pocket with your own family and say, all right, well, what does the U.S. have? The U.S. has a bank. The U.S. has obviously labor force to be able to create and continue to create economics, and then they have a defense system. You have to have all that. You got to have a defense system. You have to have a banking system, education, and just take care of yourself. There's no other way around it. But you know how we were talking about, like, oh, do you segregate yourself again? Nah, nah, nah. But you do create your own little empire. You create your own country and your family, and you take all that and you say, all right, well, I'm protecting myself, because that's technically what the American dream is, right? Technically, they want you to be like, oh, okay. I mean, you're not gonna like it, you know what I mean? But like, I'm gonna protect myself. I'm gonna create my own country and my family.
The reality for me is like I think people are waking up to the thought process that like we need guns. We don't have a government that's gonna like we don't have a government that necessarily always has our best interest at heart. And so as much as like owning land is a positive thing, maybe owning a business, creating a strong financial foundation, economic foundation for yourself. Unless you can protect that shit, motherfuckers can take all that shit away from you.
Yeah,
You know, they could take all that shit away from you, or they could take you away from it.
right.
You know,
Hey, and I'll
um,
say that on top of owning guns, though, the one thing we got to do is we got to protect our mental health, because like the number one cause of death is like suicide with guns. Like they don't talk about that shit in the NRA speeches or anything else like that, but the most people that are getting killed by guns is self-inflicted gun wounds, suicide. So like I want a gun, you know what I mean? But I also have kids, and I'm like, do I really want to have a gun around the area? But most importantly, I don't want to get a little sad where all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Now this gun is a little too handy for me. So I'm like, take care of your mind.
that's true. Um, one of the I think it's a powerful thing that has come out of the last week is like NBA players taking a stance and being like, "Nah, we ain't gonna play for y'all." Obviously, I think there are things that how many players? So it's 13 teams left in the bubble. There's about 15 players per roster. That's what. Damn. Now I'm gonna put my math skills to the test. That's like 195 players, I think. 195 players in the bubble. So obviously, there's going to be some disagreements within 195 people, 195 individuals. You get them all in a room, they're not going to agree on everything, obviously. But the fact that they took a stance and were like, "Nah, we ain't gonna play," I think is a powerful statement, especially because the NBA. We talked a little bit about this on the podcast before too, Charlie. Like the NBA is a predominantly black league, um, and I think that it was at the end of the day, what they can do with that platform is to expose people that may not be aware of these, not necessarily aware. I think everybody's aware of what's going on, but they may not necessarily be open to what people are saying. And I think the NBA players have taken a stance that allows them to push a message to people who may not always be receptive to that message and be like, all right, there is something going on here and these people care about it. Maybe let me look into it. Josh, you have any opinion on the shutdown? What that means to you? What that means to the culture? What that means to society?
I love to see it. I loved it when it happened. I was sitting down here in the basement watching TV when it happened, and I was like, yeah, all right, I like that. And shout out to Kenny Smith too when he walked off the set, on TNT. I was like, yeah, I like that. Like for racism to be what it is in America. And the funny part is, a friend of mine, she asked this. She was like, "Do racist people watch sports? Because how could you hate black people so much, but love the Lakers? Because name me one, predominant white Laker that's ever been a superstar.
You
Magic,
got Jerry
LeBron,
West. Jerry West is the only one. Jerry West is the only one.
Gary West was before both of us was alive. So, but it's like, how could you enjoy sports if you racist? And it's like, yeah, I get it. It's like, yeah, let's take that away from it. It's like, we're not going to continue to be your entertainment, and you don't have any sympathy for what we're going through. I appreciated seeing all the NBA players step up and walk out. Like, I mean, I hate to say this too, Mike and them never would have done that. They wouldn't have. I mean, we were in different times then as well, but they would have never done that. They would have figured out something else. But on the flip side, when the NBA sat down and they met with everybody and they had the meetings, and now they're turning all the NBA stadiums in the polling places for voting. Like, MJ was one of them guys that stepped up and said, "Yo, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to figure it out." So I do appreciate that the NBA is forcing change. I really am interested in what the NFL is going to do. I'm really interested because Goodell is backpedaling faster than a hooker in church. You know what I'm saying? He talking about how much we should have listened to Cap. We should have. I'm like, y'all is just, you know what I mean? It's like, I want to see what the NFL is going to do, and I would really love to see what SEC football in the South is going to do.
They
Because
ain't gonna
Big
do
Ten,
shit.
yeah, Alabama going to just be playing everybody in the South. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Yeah.
I would love
Ole
to
Miss.
see, like, yeah, Ole Miss, Alabama, Clemson. I would love to see them because I think that, because those are mostly red states, right? So I think that statement alone, we would see change. Because I'm like, them white people either gonna get in line or they're gonna riot if that ever happens. You know what I mean? So, I would love to see, what other sports do after this.
I think the dope thing is that, like, I mean, I think the NBA leads the way in terms of like social issues in all professional leagues, because then what we saw is that like the MLB you know suspended some games because players were the A's and the Astros walked off the field and just left a Black Lives Matter shirt on the field, so the MLB follows suit. The MLS follows suit. The WNBA was like, "We ain't playing." And then you had like the NHL the next day. I was surprised at the NHL because they played those games the same day, but then the next day we're like, "Nah, we ain't playing." So
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
think the
"Damn, this."
backlash.
Yeah, the
I think that's
predominantly white league. That's true.
right.
But I mean, one thing that I've had conversations with people. As long as the work is getting done, no matter how it gets done, the important part is that it's getting done. I don't necessarily fully agree with that all the time, but I understand where that comes from. So I just think, like, man, like the most powerful athletes that we have in America nowadays are basketball players. In reality, right? Because in the NFL, you may be a superstar, but you got a helmet on. You don't have that name recognition. You don't have that face recognition. Where in the NBA, which is like the second largest league in the states, is really becoming more of an international league, just because football is so American, right? So like we're tied to it as Americans, but it doesn't resonate the same way in from an international standpoint. But also, since they don't have helmets on, there's so much more facial recognition with players like LeBron James, with Chris Paul, with Giannis. And I think especially now that we're seeing a lot of the major players in the NBA that are European, it gives so much more of like an international flavor to it. Like, all right, like other countries are seeing it. Luca, Giannis, Jokic. Like these players are still standing by black Americans, their black teammates, and being like, nah, we ain't gonna rock that way. You know? I think that lends a lot more power to it because it's turning into such an international game. That's like the world is watching. the world is watching. What are you gonna do, America? You know, now that the world is watching.
I think the world is moving towards anti-racism. I think the world, as the majority of the population in the world, is recognizing that racism is fucking old, whack. This shit's done. But the governments and the policies are still racist policies and racist governments. So it's taking a long time for like that shit to change. But in the world, like you see how many protests we still have going on. You know what I mean? You see how much action is still happening as shit gets violent and violent. There's still more and more people going out there. Like I have hopes for what's happening. It doesn't mean that the bloodshed's gonna stop. It doesn't mean that shit ain't gonna keep on happening. But we're getting there. We're going towards the right side.
Yeah. I think the owners are starting to see it. And I love what LeBron did. He was like, we need the owners involved because white and money, which are all the owners, that affects change, right? You think about, I was listening to Shannon Sharp, he's talking about the Meek Mill situation, like Jay-Z and all these people tried to get Meek out, but Robert Kraft and then the owner, I think, of the Sixers went up there, and 2 weeks later, Meek was out of jail. The judge was taking off the case, he was out of jail, everything was good, and it was like, those guys have the power in the world. They have more power than the politicians because when you're them guys and you're billionaires like that, you pretty much have a say so in that room. And if them guys can get on point with what the athletes are trying to say, I think we'll really start to see change then. You know, those big majority owners, like I said, the Robert Krafts of the world, whoever owns the Celtics, people like that, like those Jenny Buss that owns the Lakers, like Jerry Reinsdorf that owns the Sox and the Bulls, like people like that have that type of money can make change because that's what this world has been built on, right? Old
100%.
white people with money. You know what I mean? They from the presidents, from George Washington all the way down to now, old white people with money can kind of determine how the world's going to spin. So I think if we can figure out a way to really get those owners out in the open, that's going to put pressure on the politicians because when they give donations, that's where they get the donations from.
Yeah, 100%. I think Matt Barnes had talked about that a little bit on ESPN when he was talking about the real powers and lobbying,
Yeah.
and like a lot of the like major sports owners. Obviously, they're like lobbying and they're putting money into politicians' pockets, but it's probably not the politicians that the players necessarily want to see in power. So it's like, all right, players need to start utilizing their not necessarily just their influence, but also their capital to be
Yeah.
like, all right, we're going to lobby for our own desires,
Right.
our own needs, and what we want to see in this country. Because I think ultimately the thing that I keep coming back to is like the power is in the dollar, bro. Not even necessarily the dollar, but the power is in currency and what you can do with that currency. And as much I think we're taught so much with black and brown people is to fear the dollar or to not necessarily like understand it or to like oh, rich people are bad. And I'm not saying that that doesn't come from a relevant place or that that's like completely wrong, but it's like understand the game, understand what that game is. You don't have to be like them, but understand what their goals are, right? You got to play chess. You got to understand what like the person that's trying to keep you down is thinking, the moves that they're going to make in order to do so, so that you can defend yourself against it. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to take the same exact strategy as them, but in order to defend against their strategy, you got to know their strategy. And a lot of that strategy is driven by the dollar, driven by currency, driven by where you put your money and who you put your money into, what you invest into. So I think that you know, a lot of just like what you were saying, Josh, like getting the owners involved is like put pressure on those owners to put the dollars where you want them to put them. You know what I'm saying? Donate to the campaigns that you want them to donate to, because ultimately, bro, sports is $1 billion $1 billion organization. So it's like, all right,
How much
we're
money
gonna
they
start
lost?
cost, we're gonna start costing you this money, man. But also the players got to be willing to be like, we're going to cost you this money, but also, all right, cool. If you want to try to cost us money, what's that million? What are those millions worth to me that are like different from the billions that are worth to you? You know what I'm saying? We got to measure that risk and be like, all right, we're going to go this far with it. And ultimately, like that's up to the athletes because I can't count their pockets. I don't know what their life's like, but I think in order for powerful change to be had, it's like, all right, let's figure out how to get those owners to put dollars where we want them to. Nothing.
No,
All
I mean,
right.
I was thinking like as we were talking about lobbying, I was thinking to myself about like, you know, how we were talking about the flower or the envelope money thing. Yo, if these fucking players start like putting all their money or just creating a lobby themselves, you know what I mean, and say, hey, why don't we create our own league at this point? You know what I mean?
It's
And you could,
possible.
it's absolutely possible. And if you got people like LeBron who has that his own sports agency as well, right? Then you got Jay-Z, you got Diddy, you got a whole bunch of people in power with influence and money that, hey, I will bring in a white investor, but you follow what I'm saying. Like, you can invest into this league if you want, but this is what's going down here. We're playing a new game in this situation. There you go.
Nah, I think you could have white investors that'll be like, yeah, let's do it. Like Mark
Yeah,
Cuban to
Mark
me is
Cuban.
one of
I
the
was about to
few
say
that
the same
Mark
thing.
Cuban is like Mark Cuban is one of the few owners that's like, fuck all the rest of these owners. They
Hell
suck
yeah.
ass.
And
Mark
that's what I'm
Cuban's
saying.
always like, yeah, the
And
fuck are
that's why
y'all doing?
I feel like, you know, the world is going towards anti-racism. The majority of it is going there. At least the younger generation is going there. It's just, hey, do we want to take these old heads out already? Say your time is up. We're done fucking with that shit that you were doing before. We're starting a new thing. You know, that's kind of where we're at. I see 2020 as the end of the old way of doing shit. It's a painful growth that we're going through right now and a stretching time, and we're seeing it all because well, we can't move. And that's the beauty of the pandemic in a sense that it's just putting you on pause and be like, watch what we've been doing, watch what's been happening to you and to the world, whether you're doing it to the planet or to other people. And now is our chance to be like, okay, let's change this thing up and let's we obviously don't like it. Let's change it. Let's move it to something that we do want.
Right. I mean, that's it. Y'all wrapping it up. I can't even say it no better than
Yeah.
that, bro.
I think that was
That's real shit.
that's a good spot to wrap it, Mikey.